everybody, and welcome to a brand new week of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Really appreciate all of you tuning us on in as we are going into the depths of my biggest fear: sharks, Megalodon, great whites. Basically, as you know from listening to this show, I am a meal, not an appetizer. And this is the reason why I will never step foot in the ocean tonight. And after tonight, I am going to fully 100% blame our guest, Max Hawthorne, who will be with us momentarily. Before we bring Max in, let's get to the round to the audience here. Hey, first time in the gold medal position, we have the gorgeous Aussie Ange. Race fan takes home the silver with Alaska's greatest athlete, the gorgeous Emily Bigelow, running in the bronze. The lovely Cosmic Fleur has returned. Nicola and Paul Holland, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate that. And, of course, we have the lovely and talented Jenny Metz. Jenny Metz has returned, everyone. We appreciate that. And Ross Lambda, Davey Crotch, how are you, man? Good to see you guys. Awesome Annie Svensson. Robert Moore, Ghost 66, good to see you. The lovely and talented Jennifer P. is here. She'll be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Joe Ortegon, how are you? Good to have you here. Thanks for joining us. The lovely Christy Bergeron, Jay Swope. Nice to have both of you here. Thank you so much for coming on in. Ibarata in Singapore and Dirty Filth are here, everyone. Give Dirty Filth a wave. He always waves back. Moonlit Kevin is here. He'll be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the right of the studio. To the right of the studio. Snakes, good to see you. Hi, Bigfoot Rob. Good to have you here, my friend. Michael Smith, thank you so much for kicking off the super chat tonight. Really do appreciate your love and support of Spaced Out Radio. Thank you so much. Mama Susan, good to see you. Double Tim, Sean, nice to have you here. The gorgeous is back. Solar Warden, nice to see you. Welcome to our chat room, Amy Schrantz. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate that. And let's see, who else do we got? Open-Minded Clarity, good to have you here. Tewaz, nice to have you back. The Philip Blair is here, everyone. The Philip Blair. Ozzy, oi, oi to you. Major Lee, thanks for coming on in, man. Good to have you here, Major Lee. Where are we here? We jumped up in the chat room here. There we are. All right, who else is here? We have Mental Pancakes. We have Worsley. Worsley's back again. Yes, we love our Worsley around here. Joshua S., John Jackson, welcome to the show. Mr. Man, Mr., otherwise known as Triple M, thank you for joining us. The Fapster has returned, everyone. How you holding out, Fapster? Please let me know. I'd appreciate that. Rooted in Gorgeous Sacredness. Nice to have you back, Chad Smith. Little Deborah, the gorgeous Renee, Logan, and Jose. Good to have you all here. Thank you. Focus, how you doing, man? Nice to see you. And my brother Eugene, how are you, my friend? Travis DeLuca, Philip Baca. Hey, there is... Meaty Toes, otherwise known as UAP Toronto. Ozzy, Sister, Uncle Dale and his power stash. Remember, people, if you are in Austin, Texas, and you find Uncle Dale, rub his power stash for 7 days of good luck. 7 days of good luck. Cat Chaser, thank you so much for the awesome super chat. You always take care of us. Thank you so much. And we really do appreciate you in the chat. Caveat, welcome to our chat room at 6 in the morning your time. Steve Stockton from KPNL. Nice to see you. Joey Hayes, thanks for coming on in. Mark Fountain, welcome to our chat room for the first time, I believe. Typical Watch, nice to see you. 509er, how are you, man? Good to see you. The lovely Laura Stevens has returned. Hi, Big J. How are you, man? And let's see here. Who else are we missing? Want to make sure I got everybody. Jurassic Joey, thank you for joining us. PBR, how you doing, buddy? Nice to see you. I hope you had a good weekend. Spookles the Gorgeous Cat, how are you? Brock Williams, thanks for joining us in our chat room. I believe this may be your first time. Really appreciate that. And Jello Putin, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Parkway, Murray F., how are you? We are 15 seconds away from launching tonight's show, everyone. We're going to have a good one here. Max Hawthorne is our guest. So let's rock and roll. The super chat is open. A great way to support this show. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Here we go. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor. Hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Known as the Prince of Paleo-fiction, Max Hawthorne is the author of the award-winning Kronos Rising series of sci-fi action thrillers, as well as the children's book, I Want a Tyrannosaurus for Christmas. Max was born in Brooklyn and attended school in Philadelphia, where he graduated from the University of the Arts. In addition to being a best-selling novelist, he is a singer, songwriter, amateur paleontologist, cryptid researcher, radio host, and IGFA world record-holding angler. Yes, this guy does it all. And tonight, I'm pretty sure he's going to scare the daylights out of me, because we are talking my biggest fear tonight, sharks. Max Hawthorne, welcome to our show. How are you, my friend?
I'm pretty good, Dave. Nice to be here. Sorry.
It is good to have you here as well. All right, you are an award-winning angler. Please fill me in, because as a fisherman myself, tell us about this title. Very jealous.
Well, I mean, when you fish a lot, and I used to do that all the time, unfortunately, I mean, it's invariable that you're going to catch, some impressive fish. So I won a few Master Angler Awards from places like In Fisherman and Bassmaster and stuff like that. I was privileged to actually have my picture on the cover of Bassmaster magazine. I think it was like 10 or 15 years ago, with a huge smallmouth that I caught out of Lake Erie. And the IGFA thing was a world record fish I caught, gosh, it's got to be 20 years ago or something like that. So, it's just a hobby. I mean, if I pull the camera up and you see all this giant stuffed fish on the wall, people would get a better idea. But you can see the tip of the fin of one, I think, hanging down on the left side there a little bit.
The tarpon, the 170-pound tarpon. Now, how long did that take you to land that one?
65 minutes.
Nice.
Yeah, in the Keys, which in that area, that's a big tarpon. So I almost got smoked.
I watch these guys off the banks, man. They dangle bait off a dock, and and then they wait for the tarpon to suck up their arm, and they get their arms within the gills of the fish, and then try and haul it up that way. That is crazy stuff, man.
There's actually a restaurant or two down there in the Keys where they have all these tarpon in that area. I think they're captive or something. And people mess with the fish. You shouldn't. I mean,
I agree.
They're feeding them beef jerky and stuff like that. That can't be good for a saltwater fish.
No. My biggest fish is a 75-pound white sturgeon.
Nice.
And a few weeks after I caught that, we almost got our boat that we were on sunk by a sturgeon.
Wow.
We never saw it, but the Fraser River, if you ever get a chance to come fish the Fraser River, if you haven't already in British Columbia, it has a huge population of giant sturgeon. And we are, you can't keep them. It's all catch and release. It's all trophy fishing. And it's nothing for these fish to get to 9-10 feet. But every now and again, you hook one that you just will never know the size. And this one took off downriver. It must have swam underneath a log and took up upriver. Sorry, it went upriver, not down. Must have swam underneath a log and then kept going to the point where the bow of the boat was about an inch from going under. That's how
Wow.
hard this fish was pulling. It was crazy. We just had to finally cut the line. Otherwise, we were going to go down.
Well, they've been around since the dinosaurs, so
Yeah.
you don't last that long if you don't have a little in your pocket, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh, I hear you, man. I hear you. But one of my dreams is to fish for tarpon. My biggest salmon that I've ever caught is 47 pounds spring salmon.
nice.
17-pound test line, my friend.
That's a good catch.
That's a nice catch on a nice thin line. That's my proud moment. Biggest one I've seen is 62. That's just big. That's just
Salmon.
big.
Yeah, we had that in Alaska on the Kenai, big Chinooks.
Yeah.
So
Love them. Absolutely love them. All right, we're here to talk about something that scares the daylights out of me, which is these sea monsters that you love going after and trying to find, whether it's a Kraken, Megalodon, or some hybrid in between. How did you get interested in all of this?
well, my main career is as a novelist. I mean, the Kronos Rising series that you mentioned before is a series of sci-fi thrillers. They call them Paleo-fiction, and the books are centered around the notion of prehistoric marine life being alive in the present, and what would happen if extinct life forms were released into our predator-depleted oceans. There's not a lot of sharks with all the finning going on and stuff like that, and the whales still haven't recovered from whaling. So, if you had no predators to keep something like that in check, they could multiply on unchecked, and they could basically take over the oceans of the world. So, when you're doing like works of fiction, you want to do as much research as possible. So, as I was doing research for the books, I invariably started acquiring information on sightings of extant prehistoric life and things like that, things that people had seen, witnessed, filmed, photographed, etc. And eventually that led me into doing a lot of cryptid research. I actually had a few sightings of my own, and then it all ended up being put together in this book that just came out called Monsters and Marine Mysteries, which is diving into predominantly marine cryptids, sightings, evidence for same, but a few land terrestrial encounters as well. So it was exciting, really, and I enjoyed interviewing these people and collecting all the data.
One of the things I think scares a lot of us is the ocean because it's so vast, it's so deep. We know we have only scratched the surface of the amount of aquatic life that is out there. We think we may know it all. We think that we've identified all the whales out there, but recently in the last 2 years, there's been another whale subspecies found for the first time. We're always finding new things. What is it about the ocean that absolutely intrigues you?
Well, I mean, ever since I started fishing when I was a kid, it's kind of like the whole Forrest Gump thing. Life is a box of chocolates. And the same thing with fishing and stuff. You never know what you're going to get. You had your experience with that sturgeon, for example, and I've had experiences like one time grouper fishing down in Port Charlotte, and I had a Goliath grouper on the line that it's actually in the book. I don't know how big it was. Maybe it was 100, 200 pounds, and something took that fish and snapped my rod in half and broke 400-pound test line and almost pulled me in the water. And it left behind a swirl that was the size of a hippopotamus. So maybe it was a giant grouper, maybe it was a huge shark, maybe it was something else. So, and what you were saying about the oceans themselves, I mean, I believe only 5% of the sea floor has actually been explored. That doesn't include the 11,000-foot vertical average distance top to bottom that you're talking about. Millions and millions of cubic miles of water that is unexplored. So Lord knows what's down there that we haven't seen yet. If you're looking for an extinct life form or some huge monstrous predator that just hasn't been encountered yet, lakes, maybe, but the ocean is honestly your best bet. It's just the law of averages.
And that's what scares the daylights out of me. I mean, whether you call it climate change or whether it's following a food source, we're starting to see great white sharks head into areas that they've never been seen before. Recently, as in a couple of weeks ago, there was a helicopter in Newfoundland that was taking video footage of all the coves along the seaside, and they happened to film what they believe was a 20-foot great white shark swimming gingerly in one of the coves, just like it was catching some rest. I mean, we're starting to see the sharks, and I'll tell you, man, I am so glad I moved inland, because if there ever is a tidal wave back where I used to live, we would have got hit. I would have been shark meat. But now, living 3/4 of a mile above sea level, I feel much more confident right now that will never happen. So the whole point that I'm getting at is we're starting to see a lot more sea life travel into other areas, and we're starting to see a lot more different species pop up where they've never popped up before. Whether it's because humans did it, or hurricanes did it when they flushed out aquariums, home aquariums in Florida, like the lionfish, which has become an invasive species down there. I mean, there's a lot going on in the ocean that we don't know about.
Definitely. When it comes to the great white situation, and discussing mega sharks was a huge a chapter or two actually in Monsters and Marine Mysteries. One thing I'll say is that I think a lot of white shark migration isn't just a matter of climate change or temperature change or anything like that, or food sources. A lot of times they're affected by their natural predators. You probably heard about those two bull orcas off of South Africa. They call them port and starboard. They have the fins that bend opposite directions, and they're white shark killers. I mean, they're elite. They tear any great white they want apart, eat its liver and other things, and then leave the rest of it. And it's a proven fact off the Farallon Islands, for example, out of California, that when orcas there killed a great white there, every white shark in the area dove to like 1,500 feet and fled for the rest of the season. Some of them showed up in Hawaii. They swam from there all the way to Hawaii to escape their natural predators. That's how afraid they are of killer whales. So when you have these two big bulls slaughtering white sharks left and right in an area, it makes sense that every white shark in there is going to flee. They've got to go somewhere. And it didn't surprise me that same time, shortly thereafter, we ended up having like schools of them showing up on our shores in California and stuff. So it's it's something to think about.
How dangerous are sharks? Because I think everything from Shark Week to the media portrays these beautiful creatures, as much as they scare me. I think they're gorgeous. These beautiful creatures as absolute killers and monsters. But if you go into the real depths of the people who are studying them, they say it all depends on what their scenario is. Like if you're trying to attract sharks to a bunch of people who are, swimming in a cage, that's one thing. I mean, look at the amount of sharks that are being filmed along the California coast and not even attacking surfers.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you're looking at aggressiveness, I think the bull shark has a reputation for being the most aggressive shark species and responsible probably for the most attacks on people. And unfortunately, it's one of these predators that when it goes after somebody, it tends to hold on. It doesn't like do the bite and spit routine like great whites do and stuff like that. It's a persistent killer. And if I had to choose between it being attacked by a white shark or a bull shark, I would probably choose the great white, because if you get hit, usually it's like when they stalk a seal. They get in an initial strike and then they swim around and wait for the seal to exsanguinate, bleed to death, and then they come in to feed. They don't want to get bitten, lose an eye, etc. As opposed to a bull shark that will just keep tearing away at you and stuff and try and rip you in half. So, but by and large, I mean, sharks are fish, and they eat, and they do what animals do. I think the first shark I ever caught was at a Montauk on a charter. It was a 7-foot blue shark that we had up alongside, and the captain wanted me to actually get to touch the shark, hands on and stuff. Obviously, they had its head pulled safely to one side, and I was very impressed. I mean, it was a beautiful animal, but it was so solid. It felt like stone covered with tire rubber, a little like tire rubber, like the adipose tissue, and then sandpaper on top. It was like a rock. I mean, it was and this is just a blue shark, only weighed like 150, 160 pounds, maybe something like that. So, you get into these immense predators. I mean, they are quite impressive.
Should we fear them as much as we do?
Well, I think if you're in the water and you're injured or something like that, and you're flailing around and the shark interprets you as food, then I would certainly be afraid. But there are people out there that swim with sharks and never have an incident. And then there are people that, unfortunately, bad things happen to them. There's a guy out there, I think he's retired now, named Vic Hislop, and he had this reputation for being a shark hunter, and he was on a mission back in the decades ago to try and exterminate certain shark species. He thought it was like a religious thing with him. If you see a site, it's on there. But one thing that I found was disturbing with him was he was claiming how when he would catch a lot of these sharks, like great whites and tigers, that he kept finding them with human appendages inside their stomachs, feet, arms, legs, things like that. Sometimes with shoes still on, etc. And it's indicated to him many, many more shark attacks than were being reported in Australia. But he said that he felt it was being covered up because of the tourist industry. So I don't know. I mean, if a shark bites your foot off and you're in the water, unless you get taken out of the water very quickly, you are going to die. You're going to bleed to death. It's just the way it is. So if that's what he was saying was true, then maybe there are a lot more shark attacks out there than we know about. People just, if the body is consumed, nobody lives to tell the tale.
Have you ever what's the word I'm looking for?
Dove with
sharks?
Sharks. I've been in the water around sharks, let's put it this way, but I never specifically went shark diving per se. So my encounters usually is like I'm snorkeling or snuba or something like that, and something goes cruising by, and you keep an eye on it, etc. That type of thing. I'm usually more my encounters usually end up being with sea turtles and things like that are a little more playful, a little less, not something you got to worry about. Although in Hawaii, you're not allowed to touch a green sea turtle. I think it's a $10,000 fine. And when a small one that weighs only 50 pounds decides, ooh, look at this big, slow, fat seal, I want to play with him. And then you're trying to backpedal and get away from the turtle who keeps wanting to touch you. And, I'm like, don't touch me. I can't afford it. But I most of my sharking has been catching and releasing sharks from the boat, which is, cool. Also, a little test of strength to see who's stronger and more skilled and all that.
No kidding. Yeah.
They are.
What's the closest you've been to a great white?
I've seen one under the boat, but I've never fished for one yet.
So when that great white swims under the boat,
mm-hmm.
How big is the boat and how small are you feeling?
Oh, the boat I was in at the time was a 36-foot Bertram, and the white shark was probably about 18 feet long. So it's not that terrifying. I mean, it's an awe-inspiring predator. But I mean, I caught a 12-foot blue shark one time that weighed over 700 pounds. And, he was right next to the boat and very angry, by the way, and such. But before we cut him loose. So, you don't want to fall in. All of a sudden, you become much more conscious of the transom. And if the deck is slippery underneath you with fish slime and stuff like that, you're suddenly a little more paranoid. You know what I'm saying? Puts a little spring in your step. Because God forbid if you fell in and the shark's like, because you have to understand, when you're out there shark fishing, they do remember in Jaws when it's like, Brody, start that chum line again and all that stuff, But nowadays it's not done like that. Now they usually have like a perforated plastic bucket, let's say, or a barrel filled with frozen chum, ground up fish blood and oil and particles and things like that. And that has perforations in it, and so it thaws in the water, and as the boat drifts along, it creates a scent trail, particles, etc. Sharks have a phenomenal sense of smell, so they're going to follow that trail, and that trail could be 5 miles long or more. So the point is the shark is there looking for something to eat at that point. That's how they hook them. They lure them in with a chum line, and as they're coming up the chum line, they encounter the bait, whether it's a half a bluefish or a chunk of something else or whatever it might be. Okay, so if you were to fall in the water at that moment, the shark might say, "Hey, there's the source of all this delicious blood and oil I've been smelling and stuff. I guess I'll have a bite." And a shark bite is a very dangerous thing. So,
I'm going to be honest with you. I am scared crapless right now, and just having this conversation, it is such a fear for me, and it's weird because I will literally seek out shark videos on YouTube or on television to watch great whites jump out of the water is there anything more impressive than watching a 1.5 ton, 2 ton great white shark all of a sudden jump out of the water 14, 15 feet and do its aerial dance before slamming back into the water. I think it's gorgeous. I mean, they're a beautiful fish. They really are. You know,
Orcas are better at it because they're more powerful and faster swimmers. So they actually do clear the water like astonishing heights. And sometimes they do it where they slap like a pilot whale or a false killer whale or a dolphin with their flukes at the same time and send it flying like 200 feet. So that's also impressive. And then, of course, if you see like a breaching whale, like a 40, 50 ton humpback that comes up and does a full somersault and crashes down too. So yeah, it's all spectacular. I had a thresher behind the boat jump out that time, and he was chasing a school of fish, and he came out and he hit him with his tail, sounded like a shotgun going off, and then crashed up clear the water and smashed down right behind the boat. Big fish. But yeah, it's something to see.
yeah. I mean, recently there was this video I saw it on one of the Instagram reels of this killer whale going after a dolphin. And the dolphin jumped out of the water, and the killer whale followed it right out of the water and literally knocked it out in midair.
Yeah.
Like they're amazing.
They are the ultimate predator at this point in the oceans. They have no natural enemies. Even huge giant squid, they tear them apart and eat them. And it's just they're let's put it this way. If an orca had the desire to feed on people, let's say, that would be much scarier than a shark because it's bigger, stronger, faster, the bite force is off the charts. The latest tests now indicate the killer whale's bite was much more powerful than a Tyrannosaurus rex's, and many times stronger than a white shark's. I mean, like 5 times as powerful. So, and these things, they could sink boats. They can, like big boats even. They're very organized. They're pack hunters, etc. It would be a big problem. Fortunately for us, they're smart enough to know that they don't want to do that.
And yet, unless you get a rogue pod, most of the pods are usually pretty friendly. Almost that dolphin part of them comes out to say, "Oh, hi, people, how you doing?" Like they're curious.
They have a matriarchal society, and they are taught by their mothers and grandmothers and great grandmothers, etc. They live a very long time, and I personally believe that the fact that in captivity, orcas have killed people. We all know that, but that's when you take an animal that's put in jail and solitary confinement and frustrated and subjected to all sorts of, things. But in the wild, there's never been a truly documented incident of a killer whale attacking a person, at least according to records. But I believe a lot of this has to do with the fact that orcas, their natural prey, are the great whales. I mean, that's what they evolved to hunt and to kill. That's why their bite is so powerful, because they will seize a blue whale by the flukes and immobilize it by pulling back. You're holding on to flukes 20 feet across. Your jaws have got to be astonishing to do that. But at the same time, over the last few centuries, they saw the great whales get butchered by people, first in sailing ships, then in metal ships, etc. So they know what people are capable of. They know that we're dangerous, and they teach each other this, etc. And so I believe they don't bother people because of that simple fact. They know that what we're capable of, and they don't want to see what happened to the great whales happen to them.
Well, you know what? Hopefully it doesn't, because we don't need any more hunting whales. That's for sure. We're talking sharks, great whites. Is the Megalodon still alive? We're going to find out from author Max Hawthorne when we come back on Spaced Out Radio right after this. All right, we're clear.
Gotta pee.
You go, man. You go. I'll hang out with the audience here. I don't know about you guys, but my sphincter is about that tight right now. I am so freaked out. Holy cow. I'm like sweating here. Goddamn sharks. God. It's terrible. Filth, I hate you right now. I love you, but I hate you. Mark Fountain, how's it going? Yeah, there's Kev S. What's happening, Kev? That is very, very true, Solar Warden. Very true. Thank you. Is it Anuka? Is that your name? And I know it's Beknerchenko. No. That looks Ukrainian. Are you Ukrainian? It doesn't look Russian. Thank you, Betty Spaghetti, for the lovely super chat. I appreciate that. Throw that up there. Oh, look who it is. It's the gorgeous and talented Kira. She has returned, everyone. Kira, give us a curtsy if you don't mind. Oh, Lana. Okay. Lana. The lovely and talented Bobby Younce has returned. Oh, Cleveland, Ohio. I've actually been there to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. One of the few places I've actually visited on the East Coast. Well, thank you, lovely Bobby Younce. Appreciate that. Thank you for that amazing super chat. Alien Critter, what's going on? Oh, hey, Clam. Cedric, how you doing, man? And where are we? Thurston Howell the Third. How's Lovey doing? Give us an update. Cedric, you did not just eat bacon and eggs. You're lying right now. You're just trying to get my goat right now. I know you. Oh, look at the cat. That's a big cat.
You gonna sit up here? Huh?
That's a good-looking cat. Noble Patrick, how are you?
Oh gosh.
That's a big cat, man.
Oh, this is the smaller one. This is Mace, the Minister of Fluff.
I can see that.
He's such a fluffy baby boy. He's such a fluffy baby. Oh, we love the baby. Okay. Oh, I got. Oh.
Okay. And now you're going to have ass hair in your mouth all night long. You got ass hair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at that. Take my ass hair, Dad. Appreciate that.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Hi, Night Gazer. John Doe, how you doing? Good to see you. And did Spookles the cat get to see the cat? Did Spookles the cat see the cat? Because she is going to be one pissed off Spookles the cat if she didn't get to see the cat.
Go ahead, Fluff Man. You can take a nap. Go ahead. I know you're gonna. Go ahead. Olaf, you're here too. Hello. What's going on?
Thank you, Cedric, for that awesome super chat. Really appreciate that. Let's see here.
I love these cats. They're both my daughters, except for the shedding.
Yeah.
That's gross.
I hear you there, man. All right, we have about 20 seconds. Thank you so much to Cedric, to Bobby, to Betty, Tim, Cat Chaser, and Michael for the amazing super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And thank you to our new subscribers. Here we go with the second half hour coming right now. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight on Spaced Out Radio with author Max Hawthorne. And we're talking sharks. We are talking everything that would literally feed on me in the ocean. I'm facing my fears here, people. Facing my fears. Max, welcome back.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to come right out with it. I think that Megalodon is somewhere still deep in the ocean. I think that there's something scary. There's been a lot of sightings of this thing, although we have no real video or photographic proof of it. But I think there's something there, man. Good 50, 60 feet. You look into the bay in Mexico, in Baja, California there. You know, they got the what do they call it? The black serpent or the black demon or something along those lines. To me, just Megalodon. Let's just name it. This thing's alive, isn't it?
Are you asking me?
I am. Let the debate begin.
Okay. So there's a whole, like I mentioned earlier, a whole big chapter in Monsters and Marine Mysteries dedicated to mega shark sightings and all the evidence that I was able to put together for this. And if people are going to get the book, I recommend the Kindle version because you can blow up the imagery, which is in high definition, and you can click on all the links to all the data and everything that comes with it. But I covered a lot of ground in there. One thing that we pretty much proved is that there are white sharks out there that exceed 25 feet in length, which is the size or bigger than Bruce the shark from Jaws, for example. Okay. I have a colleague from Briar Island, and they collected evidence of a white shark feeding there, which we call the Beast of Briar Island. And this was the evidence of this shark was found on a dead bull humpback that it had fed on. And there were bite marks, which I have video being measured and everything. And the larger of those two bite marks was 39 inches in height. Just to give you an idea. So that means, well over a yard, okay, and like 27 inches wide. And I went through different formulas, scientific formulas out there to crunch numbers for how big the shark was, etc. And even going with the most conservative formula that exists, it still ended up being a white shark that was close to 26 feet in length. So that's a huge animal right there. And that was the smallest of the ones that we looked over. Okay. There was the Perth Canyon Colossus was in there. That was the one that was featured on one of the Shark Week specials they were talking about, where they showed like a 69-foot pygmy blue whale with a big bite scar on its peduncle and all that. And I did a lot of research on that and, all that. And I ended up concluding that the shark that attacked the pygmy blue happened when it was smaller, though. But it was still somewhere in the 26 to 30-foot range. The biggest shark that we collected evidence of was photographed by paleontologist Dr. Simon J. Pierce, who is the god of marine biology, in my opinion. I mean, this man swims with 40-foot whale sharks, pregnant ones, and gives them sonograms, as he's swimming with them and stuff, among other things, okay? He's documented sperm whales catching and eating mako sharks, which is astonishing. How does a whale that tops out at 20-something miles an hour, maybe 26 or 28 miles an hour maximum swimming speed, catch a 60-mile-an-hour Corvette? See? So there's stuff to this that, we're not understanding. Anyway, so a couple years back, and this was only like in, I think, 2014 or something, or maybe 2017. I'd have to check the book. But off of the Galapagos, Simon and his people photographed a 40-foot whale shark, female whale shark, that had a huge bite scar on her rear flank there, right engrossing and covering part of the caudal keel. And this bite is a good 4 feet across. And if you look close, and all the photos are in the book, you could see individual tooth marks from it, which to me, having studied a lot of whale shark bites from great whites and tigers, and you see how fast they heal and how well they heal, this indicates to me that that bite is not more than a year old, year and a half at most, something like that. So this didn't happen when the whale shark was small and then it stretched out. It happened fairly recently. So if you look at a 4-foot bite like that, again, going with the most conservative formulas available, it suggests a predatory shark, a macro predatory shark, in the same size range as the whale shark that it attacked. Okay, that's a huge, huge animal. And but is it Megalodon or not? I would go out and say no, for 2 reasons. Well, the primary reason is that when you look at the individual tooth marks, they're very sharp. You can see them when they come to points. They're like this, like a great white shark tooth. Okay, chomp, 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 chomp. Okay, if you looked at a Megalodon tooth, like this, okay, it's much rounder as it comes up. Understand? This is more for crunching bones than slashing flesh. Okay, so if the predator that attacked the whale shark was a Megalodon, those teeth gouges would be a little more rounded as they came down. See? So that leaves, in my opinion, once again, a couple possibilities. The first is what some marine biologists have theorized, that at times white sharks get preternaturally large. Okay, they don't stop growing for some reason and they end up enormous. Okay, of course, with size comes a loss of speed. Think about it. This shark would ever attack that whale shark, put a hit on it, but it couldn't finish the job. And whale sharks only swim at like 3 to 5 miles an hour. So how did the whale shark get away? Right? I mean, isn't that logical?
Unless the shark bit it and said, "This isn't what I'm looking for," and let go.
Well, so one of the things I put out there is that whale sharks have a very well-developed caudal keel that runs along half their body length. And this is, in my opinion, more than just stability for the peduncle, and for the caudal keel and everything like that, okay? So this is actually like a crumple zone for this whale shark, because when a predator like a white shark or something like it comes up and wants to attack something, they try and avoid the head, okay? They don't want to get a return bite. They don't want to get smashed, slashed, whatever. So they try and hit you where you can't fight back, and they try and cripple their target. So if you can bite another animal's tail and it can't swim anymore, it's dead. End of discussion. Okay, so it's probably a combination of the fact that it bit in there and it got a mouthful of like tough skin and calluses and stuff like that. It tastes like gristly and wasn't very appetizing, or the whale shark probably smacked it in the head with its tail, which was enormous, as you can imagine, in a 40-foot shark, and left its bell rung and it just went on its way. Okay, but still, we're looking at enormous fish. So either it could be a white shark that has just not stopped growing, or there is a relative of Megalodons, which is its direct ancestor, called Carcharicles chubutensis, which could reach up to 40 feet in length, which had sharper, more pointed teeth. In fact, I have a 5-inch chubutensis tooth in my display case, but I'd have to get up and go get it to show it to you. But it looks a lot more like a white shark tooth than it does a Megalodon tooth, is my point. It's much more bladed, the crown is thinner, point is sharper, etc.
Right. And I'm going to be honest with you. I just about died when you showed those Megalodon teeth and the great white teeth on camera there. That just honestly scared the daylights out of me. It did. Yeah. No, I jumped. I cringed. Yes, I did.
Wait, so when I was doing a lot of the research on some of the stuff that I told you about, so this is like a white version of a Megalodon tooth, but this is a replica. Okay. But this is what it would look like, if it was fresh. I actually have an off-white Megalodon tooth, millions of years old though, in my collection, and it's intriguing because people look at it and they say, "Wow, that's like so sort of like ivory color still. That might be fresher," but it's really not. It's just a matter of the fossilization, what minerals are available when it, turns to stone, so to speak.
So why do you think people like myself still believe that Megalodon somewhere is trudging through the ocean? Because, this is a fish that, died out?
3.6 million. 3.6 million. 6 million years.
So take us through the history.
Well, chubutensis is still an enormous fish. A 40-foot shark is a 40-foot shark. So if it's still out there, which the odds are against it, but something seems to be out there, something is out there taking giant bites out of things, then, what is it? See? So, I mean, the like the problem with these giant sharks is that they have a skeleton made of cartilage. And a cartilage in a skeleton is not as strong as one of bone. So, like my friend from Briar Island, for example, there's a video on my website, and he has a basking shark carcass that washed ashore. And he pulls out a knife and does a display, and there's a vertebrae there. And he takes it and he slices through it like it's hard cheese. But it's not hard to go through. And it's not because it's rotted, it's because it's more like rubbery. See? So that works great when you're a 10-foot mako that could swim at 50 miles an hour and turn on a dime. But as you get bigger and bigger and bigger, and all the muscles and ligaments have to attach to that stuff and strain to swim, the animal perforce gets slower and slower. It can't move its tail as fast. It can't generate as much power because the attachment points are not going to hold up. It's like if you build a skyscraper using tire rubber instead of steel girders. You're only going to get so high before that skyscraper is going to crash down. So they have to sacrifice speed as they get bigger. And so eventually, once you start passing the 30-foot mark, you start getting an animal that more and more has to make a living off of carrion, meaning dead things, instead of chasing things down. And I put out, there's a whole theory of mine out there that the large Megalodon sharks actually were not obligate scavengers, but were primarily scavengers, meaning that when they were smaller, 20 feet long, 25 feet long, even 30 feet long, they were still active hunters that scavenge as opportunities presented themselves. But as they got so big that they could not chase down whales that swam at 30 miles an hour, which they did, and they swam at 12 miles an hour, they had to rely more and more on carrion, which still enabled them to get bigger and bigger and bigger because, a whale carcass is a huge amount of protein, and that enables you to grow.
Yes, and that's my fear, man. I look at myself as a big walrus, to be honest with you. Minus the teeth. And that's what fears me. But when it comes to the megalodon, I mean, we see so many people, especially in North Carolina, along the eastern coastline around that area, finding megalodon shark teeth, almost on a daily basis around certain areas. I mean, even inland in streams, they are finding these. Do you think that there is an ability that this shark, did it go extinct, or did it just shrink down, or could it be in some of those deeper waters where the bigger prey is?
Mm-hmm. Well, the megalodon was a shallow water predator, and its prey were cetaceans, sirenids, and whales, primarily. So you find these teeth in shallow waters for two reasons. The first is that sharks shed teeth, like my cat, as you just saw, sheds hair. It's a conveyor belt. So as they're feeding, they're invariably going to lose teeth, which are replaced a day or two or three later, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So a shark goes through many, many tens of thousands of teeth in its lifetime, and those teeth get shed. So that's why you find so many, as opposed to skeletons, which, being of cartilage, don't fossilize well. Okay. The other thing is that the areas you're talking about in these streams and rivers and stuff were once underwater. A lot of the parts of the U.S. now, the coastal areas were, like Florida, was underwater. So the water there was a lot deeper than it is now, but these female sharks would come into the shallows to birth their pups. And the pups would probably do like the Goliath grouper do and stay in the shallows hunting and stuff until they were big enough to venture out into the open sea to fend for themselves. So.
Yeah.
But I do have some interesting, if you want to see like a fossil that demonstrates like I was saying, how like an adult would probably be more of a carrion feeder. I'll be happy to demonstrate it for you.
Sure, we can do that.
Okay.
We got time for that. As long as we explain it for our radio audience and paint a picture for them, we can do it.
Okay. Well, I don't have the radio audience is not going to see the video though, right?
Right.
Okay, so I'll have to try and put this in terms that are okay. So figure it this way. You have a shark that's 50 feet long, weighs 40 tons. Okay. It's not a fast moving predator. So it's going to basically swim along. It's going to find carrion. And when it gets to that point, how is that camera doing that all by itself? That was weird. But anyway, I think I have a ghost in my house now or something.
That is possible.
Yeah,
And
it wouldn't be the first time.
weird stuff can happen during this show.
So the camera is not supposed to be able to move, though. It doesn't have that ability. That's why it was strange. But so a shark like that, that's not a fast swimmer, is going to basically swim along. It's going to scent a carcass, and it's going to track that carcass to its source. And being as huge as it is, if there's other smaller sharks or scavengers preying on that, it's going to basically take the carcass. Sharks have a size hierarchy. When a big great white comes along, a smaller great white will get out of the way. And if it doesn't, the larger one will bite it to warn it. It happens. It's even in Monsters and Marine Mysteries. So the problem when you're a slow swimming scavenger, like, your 20-foot megalodons, your 25, 30-footers are out there, are chasing down whales and killing them and eating them and stuff. Okay. But after they do that, see, one of the comments that people would make opposing the idea that the bigger megalodons or scavengers would say, well, where are all these carcasses coming from? How are these sharks all going to eat? And it was a kind of silly thing, but easy to address, because when you look at great whites, for example, like Deep Blue, you've heard of her, right? The 20-footer.
Yes.
Okay.
She's beautiful.
So we know, of how many 20-foot great whites, honestly, that are documented. 2, 3, maybe. The bite marks from my book show a 25-footer, but there's hardly any. Okay. Yet the 10, 12, and 14-footers are everywhere, right? So the same thing would exist with Megalodon scaled down. So for every 50-footer you'd have out there, there would be scores, if not hundreds, that were 20 and 30 feet long. That make sense?
That does make sense.
Okay. So, and they don't get sexually mature until they're like 34 feet, 35 feet, I think was what Shimada's paper says. Okay. So when you have all these sharks out there, these 20 and 30 footers, they're all still hunting. And what are they hunting and eating? They're eating whales. And back then, their primary whales were not the giant whales of today, which megalodons could not feed on. Okay. They fed on these smaller whales that were 20, 25, 30 feet long, like Cetatherium. This is a piece of a rib from one, which we'll get to in a minute. Okay. So when a 25-foot megalodon killed a 20 or 25-foot Cetatherium, which you could do, inflict a fatal bite on it, wait for it to die, rip into it, eat all the juicy bits, go on its way, it's not going to eat the whole thing. It's as big as it, right? That'd be like you eating a 200-pound, hero sandwich. It's just not going to happen. Okay. We might all aspire to that, but, realistically. So what happens then is you created a carcass and a carcass and a carcass. So every time one of those 200 smaller megalodons makes a kill, it's providing food, ostensibly, for the big adults that are 40, 45, and 50 feet long. So there was like a food pyramid where the young sharks are making kills and they're basically feeding the adults, which is perfect. It's literally perfect. Okay. So the megalodon sharks, the big ones though, their teeth experience morphological changes to help them scavenge better. And that's proven when you look at the shape of the teeth, which we'll get to in a second. Because you see, the thing is, when you're a slow swimming shark and there's a lot of faster sharks out there, every time a carcass shows up though, things are going to feed on it. They're going to rip away all the juicy bits, the blubber, muscles, and stuff like that. And a lot of times when the big adult would show up there, the main parts that were left were behind the rib cage, the heart, the lungs, things like that. High protein value, vitamins, etc. But you got to get through those ribs to get to them. And the smaller predators, they couldn't bite through the ribs. But the big megalodons, the big ones with that 5-6 foot mouth, they started becoming masters of doing that. And as they got better and better at it, the ones that were able to process those carcasses better, pass on their genes, and so forth. So when you look at their teeth, the interesting part about the teeth is the upper maxillary teeth, the ones in the center, the primaries, okay? So if we look at a great white shark tooth like this, and this is a 3-inch tooth, okay? It's sizable, but if you look at it sideways, it's like a blade. This is a shark that's designed to attack flesh, inflict lethal wounds, and then come back and rip that flesh apart and eat it, okay? It's not going to crunch through bones. It's not able to do that. If a whale's dead, it eats the soft, juicy parts once again. Okay. Now, if you look at a megalodon tooth, like something like this, okay, much bigger, you turn it sideways, you can see the difference. I hold that this way. I'll try and do this for the camera. So even though if this tooth was twice the size to be the same thing, it would not be anywhere near as thick or curved. Okay. Then you got to look at the shape of the crown itself. Okay, and I can show this with this tooth, and I can show this with this tooth, and all sorts. But let's look at the white one, because that should probably pop the best for the audience. Okay, so the Megalodon tooth has an unusual shape which we don't see in these upper maxillary teeth. When I say upper maxillary, remember, upper jaw. Okay, and for people, for the record, okay, this part here, which is the lingual side of the tooth, this is the display side with the curve. Okay, that's the inside of the mouth. So your labial side, the flat side, is the part that would come at you, like this. See, this is probably left side, either 1 or 2, position in the jaws. Okay, so the crown, though, which is interesting, is that it's not blade-like. This is shaped like a chisel. This center part here of the crown. Can you see like the shape?
Yeah,
See,
it's
got
rounded.
thickness to it, right?
Yeah.
Like that. Okay, and then it comes down, it flares out, it forms these cusps like this here and here. Okay, so you've got this chisel-shaped wedge in the center, and then these serrated hacksaws here and here. And the reason that this tooth is shaped like this is that when this shark came along up to a rib cage, the shark does not want to just smash into a bunch of bones and bite down. You know, these teeth are anchored in cartilage, so it's going to lose half its teeth.
Right.
How's it going to eat? It's going to take days before those other teeth swing into place. So this shark would come along, and it would come up to the ribs, and it would mouth the carcass, feel into the ribs, and punch down a little. And it wants to get this tooth between 2 ribs, like this, see? And then the next tooth between 2 ribs, like this, and so forth, on these upper ones here. And when it does that, and it starts to push down, that it feels that fit, it's like you putting a glove on without looking, okay? As it starts to push down, these ribs now start to get cut by these flanges here, these cusps, see? Cusplets, we'll call them. Okay, and it goes, and it starts to slice right into it, and it happens on both sides, and it's a sandwiching attack, and the ribs just go pop, 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 like that, and then the shark is able to crunch right through that rib cage without losing all its teeth, okay, and shear out 1,000-pound mouthful of rib bones and heart and lungs and whatever disgusting stuff is in there, okay. So, you know, when you explain this to people, they're like, well, there's no proof, it's just a theory. But then you get actual fossils, okay? Now this, like I said before, is a shattered rib fragment from a Cedotheridae, prehistoric whale, Miocene period, etc. Okay? Now if you look at this, you see this, how this rib bone is flat on the back here, okay, and then rounded on the outside. So this means this is the inside part of the rib that curves around and protects the organs of the animal. And the outside part of the tooth is right here, okay? So hopefully I can do this so people can see it. If you look close, okay, you're going to see 3 gouges on this tooth, on this rib. These are from Megalodon teeth. There's a thin one that's right here. You see that? Looks like a scratch, okay? There's a thick one that's right here. And if you turn it, you see it just ends. And then you got a really thick one here that ends in a fissure. Crash, okay? That's a fracture point, okay? So what happened with this is just showing you exactly what I'm talking about. Mrs. Megalodon, because the females were the biggest shark, she comes along and her tooth would be like this, and this would be here. So yeah, like that. And she comes along and she goes to take a bite. Like
wow.
This. We got a break?
We do got a break.
Okay.
You're scaring the daylights out of me.
I'm doing my best.
Hawthorne on Spaced Out Radio. We're going to continue talking about how Megalodon may be still out there in baby steps, not the 60-footers. We'll find out and get a learning lesson about this shark next. All right, we are clear. I'm going to quickly run outside, grab my dogs, and take them outside. I'll be right back, okay? I'm going to put you on mute.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. We'll be right back, people. Oh, my God. Oh, shit my pants now. Okay, we got a clean pair of underwear on now, and we'll be able to make this happen. Just wait for Max to return. All right. Hi, Bombshell Bomber. Hi, White. How are you? We're just on a commercial break right now. Oh, that would be Bubbles, sorry. And White. Yeah, Bubbles and White. How you guys doing on Twitch? Nice to see you. And Logan, how are you doing? There are no megalodons in the forests of Canada. There are none. So let's just cross that off the list right now, that there are no megalodons in the forests of Canada. All right.
Oh, boy.
Honestly, you're scaring the shit out of me. It's fantastic. Uh-huh. And go from there. Let's see here. No, they're not called canalodons. No. Wait on Twitch is saying, I know for a fact there are megalodons in the redwood forests of California. All right. You and me both, Gary. Thank you, Super Gary, for joining us. Mennonite Abe, good to see you. All right, I want to say a big thank you to Cedric, to Bobby, Betty, Tim, Cat Chaser, and Michael for the amazing super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So we really do appreciate the love and support. Yes, we do have Dogman up here. I would take a Dogman over a Megalodon every day. Apollo 11, good to see you. Nice to have you back. Gorgeous Ronnie in the other chat room. Bill Hauser. Oh, hey, Clam in Spreaker. The lovely and talented Jessica McCreary's over there as well. All right, we're going to get going here in about 30 seconds and restart the show.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Frigorific. Frigorific is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Author, prized fisherman, Max Hawthorne is with us. And right before the break, Max, I'm not going to lie, you scared the daylights out of me, showing us on our YouTube feed for our radio people a rib bone of a whale that had megalodon teeth marks on the rib. Now, that's just getting way too real, my friend. Way too real.
Not as real as the message I got from a reader who told me that she heard me say I gotta pee on the first break.
Yeah.
I didn't know that one out there.
It went out.
We're going to have to work on that.
Yeah.
Should I keep going with this?
Keep going, my friends. Keep
Okay.
scaring the daylights out of me, that's for sure.
Okay. So basically, we're back to this piece of rib bone here. Okay. So like I said, we've got 3 gouges on here. One there, a shallow one, a deeper one there, and then a deepest one here that ends in a fracture. Okay. So what this indicates basically is Mama Megalodon came along and she, like I explained, was trying to fit her teeth, her upper maxillary teeth with their chisel points And those flanges that flare out here, she wants to get them between these rib bones so she can bite through that rib cage and get lunch. Okay? So what happens is she comes here the first time and she bites in, but not all her teeth are in the right place. She's feeling around and stuff, and she adjusts her bite again. See? Because that ends, it doesn't break. And she comes a second time, pushes in, and you see it here, it explodes. Okay, so as this cusp comes in, it cuts to the point that the whole rib just fractures and it all starts to cave apart. This third one, which is so faint, you can see by my finger right here, is probably incidental as she was swallowing the fragment. It just got sliced, etc., and stuff like that with pieces of bone. Okay, but this basically indicates that this is what was going on. The shark wasn't coming out and smash and stuff like that, Hulk smash, whatever, and stuff like that, and then you'd have just like one big break and fragments everywhere. It didn't work like that. There's a feeling out process where the shark is feeling, gets what she wants, and then cracks right through. But this is the hallmark of a scavenger, because live whales don't lie there on their sides and say, all right, big girl, just fit those teeth right over here. Yeah, one by one between my ribs, and I'm going to let you do that. Okay? It doesn't do that. So this is something that's designed to get at that heart and lungs, which is hidden behind that rib cage. Oh, and I got a bonus for you. A couple bonuses. First, this is the Trabutensis tooth I told you about. You can see it's very nice and pointy, thinner, much more like a big white shark tooth than a Megalodon tooth. It doesn't have that crown that's like bulbous, like a cylinder or something like that. Okay. Oh, and this is the Megalodon tooth I told you about that's almost white. It's nice, right?
Beautiful.
Yeah. And if you look, though, you see once again, this is once again one of your upper teeth. It has that wedge shape to it. See? And this is what it does. It gets in there, snack, crackle, pop. Get out of that. I'm sorry, I haven't slept. Snap, crackle, pop? Is that how it goes?
Okay. You got it there.
Okay, good. And I even pulled out a big piece of whale rib, okay, here. And this sucker actually is really neat because it shows you, if you look at these teeth on the side, they have a curve to them. You see that? They're not straight, okay? And that's because they want to curve as they bite in because there's some flexion going on, okay? So when this Megalodon was feeding on this, and this is the edge here, this tooth came down like this, and it sliced in like that, and then you see the deeper fissure right there? I don't know if people can see that or not. Okay, that's where the cusps start to cut in before it makes this break that you see here. Okay, so that shows what's interesting about this is a 6-inch tooth. Yet this tooth, if I line it up, is not big enough to have done this, you see, to reach that point, which suggests that the tooth that the shark that fed on this particular whale was probably a 7-inch tooth. It was a very, very big shark. So once again, though, this was found in coastal areas where the female sharks come into birth their pups. And your biggest sharks would have been the females, just like they are with great whites and other shark species. The girls are always bigger.
Mm-hmm.
As he sips out of his Stitch mug that he stole from his daughter when she wasn't looking.
Okay, I want to ask you, before we get to some audience questions here, because I know they're going to start lining up here.
Yes.
There have been some interesting photographs, both around Baja, California, Mexico area, there in the Bahamas, in Australia. There's the old submarine photo from World War II, I believe, of the U-boat that potentially had a Megalodon in there. Do we have any photographic or video evidence that really proves to you that there are 30, 40-foot sharks, potentially Megalodon-type sharks, still roaming the ocean?
Well, the photo you're talking about of the U-boat is a doctored photo. That was a still that was taken from an old World War II film, and then somebody added the shark fin and the tail to it, to be honest. So a lot of that stuff comes from one of those what they call mockumentaries, where they, created a lot of excitement, and then people were a little disappointed when they found that it wasn't real, that type of thing. The biggest evidence that I've been able to collect so far is, like I said, a collection of giant bites taken out of living animals that are still swimming around that indicates that something took a nice hunk out of them. Once again, if you've got a 40-foot shark attacking a 40-foot whale shark, it's a huge fish. Is it a Megalodon? Is it a mega great white? Is it a Trabutensis that doesn't know it's extinct yet? I don't know. I do have a photo that somebody sent me many years ago. When I say many, like 6 or 8 years ago, something like that, which is very compelling. It shows a pair of humpback whales, and they're sounding, and their tails are out of the water, and one of them has an immense shark bite taken out of one fluke. And it's like notch. I mean, you can see shreds of flesh and stuff like that. It's semicircular, like Pac-Man with fangs and stuff. Okay. And you can't say how big this humpback was. Is it a calf? Is it a young adult? Is it a big bull? So you can't say how big those flukes are. Are they 8 feet across? Are they 12 feet across, et cetera? It's impossible to say, but it does indicate that a mega shark came up and tried to attack that humpback. It wasn't fast enough. It managed to just graze its fluke and take a little bite out of the fluke and left its calling card, and the whale escaped. Okay, so I'm a firm believer that we have some sort of very, very large macro-predatory shark out there. Whether it's Megalodon or something else, nobody could say, honestly. The only way you're going to get solid proof is if you catch one, and I don't have a fishing rod that big, or people crazy enough to go with me, or you get a tooth preferably with tissue attached to it that's fresh, or you get some really compelling real video and not CGI nonsense, or some, Greenland shark or something like that, or six-gill that's people are claiming is Megalodon and obviously is not.
What about that video? And please, if it's fake, let me know. There's a video of a military helicopter where they are picking up, they're doing sea rescue training, and you see underneath this diver in the water a giant shadow swim underneath him. Whale, shark, or
I think it's CGI, that one, honestly. There's so much stuff out there that's been, like that whole story about submarine, the shark, was actually, from my understanding, was created for a documentary, to scare people and stuff and give it more realism, to give it more bite, okay? More bite, etc. That doesn't mean there is not stuff out there, because when you read through Monsters and Marine Mysteries, I've got a whole series of mega sharks going up in scale, size, from sighting to sighting, and witness reports, and the best photographic evidence, let's put it this way, we get our hands on. So, it's what we got so far.
Where are these giant sharks living? These mega sharks, as you call them.
Well, the one, like I said, was off the Galapagos. There was another one off of Australia. Briar Island was the big great white shark. There was another one, I don't remember off the top of my head, but they're in basically waters where there's a lot of prey, a lot of cetaceans, things like that. If you're a big animal, you need a big meal, so that's where you want to be. I mean, that whole stuff about where is it with the super predator, that whole thing, my God, see, this is what happens when you get 3 hours sleep. You can't remember everything. But off the coast of Australia, they have a canyon there, and it's got everything in it, from huge giant squid to killer whales to big great whites and everything in between. And so that's like a big feeding ground, so you would expect to find a big predator in that area.
Okay, so we don't see a lot of whale carcasses floating around with these giant bites out of them of these mega sharks. So what would you conclude a mega shark to be? Just an overgrown relative of the great white?
Well, that's what some scientists have said. They think that great white sharks sometimes don't, they just keep growing. I mean, obviously there's going to be physical problems that are going to afflict the shark when it gets to that size. But I mean, as a kid, I once caught a beetle. I know that sounds silly, but in Philadelphia, and the species only gets to be like an inch long. And I caught one, a healthy adult, that was 2.5 times that length, and they just don't get that big. So that insect, for example, was a mutant. It just, for some reason, it continued to grow. So the same thing could happen. They have that happen with toads, frogs, sometimes, etc. I don't see why it couldn't happen with fish. I mean, fish have indeterminate growth to begin with. So I'd like to think that there's a small population of, Ototus chubby-tensis still swimming around out there. That would be incredible. Is it true? I don't know. You'd have to encounter one of these fish up close and personal to find out. Maybe people do, and they just, you and I in the water, even a slow-swimming shark that feeds on carrion is not going to turn up a juicy Homo sapien kicking around and stuff. We're an hors d'oeuvre.
Some of us are a meal.
Well, I just lost some weight, but thank you. Oh, you meant you. Okay.
Yeah, I literally meant me. So
And the cat's out there destroying stuff. I can hear things shattering right now. That's great.
yes, you get a mess to clean up after this interview. Max
Yeah.
Hawthorne is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Max, with a lot of people tend to believe because the ocean is so unique in its way that we really haven't put the time into studying. The old adage goes, we know more about space than we do about our own oceans here in regards to what is actually in there. Do you think that a lot of these larger predatory type sharks are hanging out in areas like the Marianas Trench or the deeper parts of the Indian or Pacific Ocean?
I think a macropredatory shark is not going to live in the ocean abysses because its prey is going to be higher up. I mean, whale fall, when a whale carcass sinks to the bottom, does happen. But by the time it gets there, it's pretty stripped, you know? I mean, the lungs are deflated already and everything else like that. You're not going to get much of a meal out of that. You want to be high up where the prey is, where the carcasses are, all this other stuff. So I just think that if they're out there, and I believe they are, there's just not a lot of them. They're scattered, very few animals over an enormous, space. And it's literally a needle in a haystack, but the haystack is, several million cubic miles of water.
True that, but I mean, the fact is, we still are finding species every year. Recently, in the last couple of years, as we mentioned earlier, there was a new species of whale that was found.
And a new orca.
And a new orca, absolutely.
Yes.
So, I mean, is it possible that there could be this mega shark clan out there that is breeding, maybe at a slower pace?
Anything's possible. I mean, I'd like to think so, and maybe it is. Like I said, I mean, I've got the photos from Simon and everybody else. You have these whales and whale sharks that are being attacked and bitten by something gigantic. It's not successfully killing them, but it's trying. So what's doing it? It can't be a normal sized white shark that, white sharks don't have a mouth that's 4 feet across.
One of the stories that I have always been interested in is a number of years ago, there was about a 15, 16-foot great white that was caught in the nets of Australia that had a bite mark from spine to spine near its head. Now, they believe the shark was already dead when that happened, but being there and being fresh food, did you ever investigate that case and what size shark that was?
No, I'm not familiar with it. I know there was like one from this Perth Amboy or somewhere else where they said that the white shark, like it used to be in the Guinness Book of World Records, and they said it was like 36 or 37 feet long. And it turned out to be a typo. When they found the physical records, it was actually 16 or 17 feet long. And the one looked like apparently it was so scribbled that people just decided it was, a 3. And they had the actual jaws mounted there, and they found the jaws, and the jaws were definitely from a 16 or 17 footer. So things get stretched over time and stuff like that. One of the things I investigated for Monsters and Marine Mysteries was the Port Stephens shark. Are you familiar with that story out of Australia?
No, fill me in.
That's one from like 1918 where a bunch of lobster fishermen out of AU swore on the stacks of Bibles that they saw a sheet white albino shark with size ranges from 100 feet. Some people said it was 300 feet long, which was obviously ridiculous, etc. And that it took a bunch of their lobster pots, and scared the daylights out of them, etc. And when I looked at all the data and the actual report and everything else, it occurred to me that what they almost certainly saw was an enormous albino whale shark instead. And the whale sharks get big. I mean, we know they can exceed 60 feet. My old shark captain swore quite vehemently that he had a 90-footer behind his boat one time. Its head was as wide as his transom, which was 17 feet wide and all that. Apparently it followed the chum slick. But an albino whale shark, let's say 60 feet long, would be an awe-inspiring thing. And nobody would think of it as a whale shark because whale sharks are, spotted and all this stuff. But whale sharks also feed on krill, and krill are crustaceans, and lobsters are crustaceans, and these guys are pulling up lobsters. The smell would attract the whale shark. Whale sharks have a reputation of trying to steal fish sucking them out of people's nets, trawlers and stuff like that. They're very good at doing that. It wouldn't surprise me if a whale shark that size came along and it was trying to get at the traps, and it probably snagged the cables that they have with their floating buoys and stuff, and it dragged off a bunch of traps, and it swam away and scared a bunch of drunk fishermen that thought they saw Godzilla.
True. I mean, we know there's tales of the ocean going back hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's Kraken bringing down sail ships, whether that's sperm whales actually attacking and sinking ships, like the true story of Moby Dick.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, mermaids, there's another one. There's a lot of tales that happen at sea. Do you think they're all just folklore and legend, or do you think there is some truth to the size of these?
No, the Kraken one, gosh, my brain is so foggy right now. But what was the name? Oh, the Stein. Yeah, that was one of my favorites, because when I was looking at one of the categories that I looked into were Kraken sightings, not just, and giant octopus sightings as well. But there was an incident from, I think it's 1976 or 79. I don't know the date off the top of my head, but there was a destroyer named the USS Stein that left out of San Diego, and shortly after it left its harbor, let's say, reports vary, but the ship shuddered a little bit, and then its sonar went non-operational. They were blind out there. Now, for a warship, let alone any ship, you can't be out there with no sonar. So they had to return to dock, and when they got there, the ship has a sonar dome. Do you know what a sonar dome is? Okay, so, well, for people who don't, where the hull curves into the water, there's a bulbous shaped mass part of the ship's hull which emits the sonar, active and passive sonar, for it to pick up threats and seafloor and everything else like that. Okay, that sonar dome does all this stuff. So that sonar dome had been shredded over, I believe, 80% of its surface. It was covered with a no-foul rubber coating, and all the scratches had these broken off claws in them. And the claws turned out to be from some enormous squid. And they were, according to the reports, were 5 times larger than any known specimen of giant squid out there. So apparently, when the ship was cruising along there, it passed over a gigantic squid, which is estimated anywhere from, I think, 150 to 175 feet in length. And
Wow.
That's without the feeding tentacles that shoot out. That's just the mantle and the short tentacles. So you're talking a really big piece of calamari here, okay? And it lashed out and attacked the Stein. And the reason it did this is, and one of the things I researched was the frequency that they were using for their sonar. The sperm whale's attack frequency when it's targeting prey, so everybody knows sperm whales use sonar in the blackness of the abyss to track squid and stuff like that, is in the same range that the Stein was emitting. And that sonar dome, which is like 26 feet across, is also shaped very similarly to the head of a sperm whale, except that a sperm whale with a head 26 feet across would be a whale that's, I don't know, 150 feet long, 200 feet long. I mean, I'm guessing, but gigantic. But big enough to attack a squid even that size. So the squid must have said, this is a whale, this is my enemy, and it went on the aggressive side, and it lashed out and tore at this thing, and then said, wait, this is not a whale, there's metal, or whatever, and it disengaged, and it swam away. But not before leaving its calling cards in all the slashes that it left when it did that.
My goodness.
Can you imagine a 150 or 175 foot squid coming at you? I mean, like with teeth out of its suckers and everything. I mean, that would eat a Megalodon shark. It would eat a 60-foot sperm whale, and probably does. But it's pretty much certain that it existed because the Stein incident, you can Google it, Wikipedia is for certain, and the size of the claws, which I've seen images of, is for certain. This, whatever did this, was huge. Huge. Scary huge.
That is just another reason not to go in the ocean and play with sonar. You know, we got about a minute to go here before we got to go to break. At the bottom of the hour, Max Hawthorne is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. With all the sea traffic that we have, whether it's, cargo ships, oil ships, military, like aircraft carriers, why are we not seeing more evidence of these giant creatures with so much traffic in the water?
You want me to answer that now, or when we come back?
Well, we can start to answer now. You got about 40 seconds.
Oh gosh. Well, the bottom line is that cargo ships, warships, all this other stuff, they're huge and they're noisy as hell. Okay, predators have like a pecking order, etc. So it doesn't matter if you're a 50-foot shark or if you're a 150-foot squid. When you've got a 500-foot warship coming at you with giant turbines screaming and stuff like that, you're perceived as being a kaiju. You know, you're going to eat that animal, and that animal is going to flee and avoid you immediately. So you had a lot more sightings when you had sailing ships that were quieter, and a lot of sightings have taken place with people that had trimaran yachts, that were sailing vessels, people that were anchored up, drifting, and I'll give you some examples when we get back.
All right, Max Hawthorne is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Sea monsters. We got Max for another 1 hour here on Spaced Out Radio. I don't know about you. I'm 2 pairs of underwear in so far. We're going to continue on Spaced Out Radio and Megalodon and Kraken talk right after this. All right, we're clear.
No, I'm not falling for that one again.
Oh, yeah, don't worry. I tell my audience when I got to pee, too, so don't worry about it. People here are used to hearing about it.
Somebody to message that. I didn't, expect anybody was going to hear that, so I'm kind of embarrassed,
Don't be embarrassed. We've had everything happen on this show, man.
Yeah.
Everything. Well, almost everything.
I'm going to go get a fresh seltzer. I'll be right back.
All right.
Thanks so much, Steve.
We'll get to audience questions coming up here after the break. And let's see here. What else we got here? I'm going to be honest. This show is scaring the daylights out of me. It really is. It really is. Troy, you did not catch a Megalodon on 12-pound line, even if it was braided. Excuse me. Smoky Mountain Wanderer, what's happening? Welcome to the show. My palms are sweaty. My armpits are sweaty. My back is sweaty. My third chin is sweaty. Everything is sweaty right now. Hey, 11, how are you? Jurassic Yoey, good to see you. All right, I got to hold the chat room there. So that way I can not miss any questions from you guys. Wow, this show is beating the hell out of me right now. Not going to lie. Not going to lie. Hey, Supermax.
Oh, hey. Yeah, hi.
What's happening?
What's happening? Hey, well, I was out there talking to this guy about a thing,
That is Brooklyn.
Yes, I lived there for many years. I had learned the accent, fortunately or unfortunately. Thank God it didn't stick.
It would make you a good old Yankees fan.
Ah, yes. And when I was down in Florida a few years back fishing the Stick Marsh, they have armies of turkey vultures and stuff there. Yes. And at one point, there were a whole horde of them, like 15 or 20, all standing on this gate that we had to open. A little disconcerting, a bunch of giant vultures staring at you and stuff, and you got to move the gate to roll on and stuff. And I'm like, hey, look, it's Murderer's Row. It's perfect.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah. So it was
That's kind of funny.
Yeah, I'm funnier when I have sleep.
I'm a Yankee fan too, by the way.
Who isn't? All the ones that say they aren't, they really are. They just,
It's true. It's true.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's totally true.
Mm. By the way, just out of curiosity, did you want to do like a book giveaway at random for one of your fans?
Well, we totally could.
Because I mean, I got I've got. If you want me to give somebody a copy of Monsters and Marine Mysteries on the house, I could do that. You just have to figure out a way to raffle one off or something.
Well, let's once I get through, let's do it in the final half hour.
Okay.
You know, I want to give it time so maybe not only our YouTube audience but our radio audience gets an opportunity to do so as well. So what we'll do is we'll come up with something. Lots of time.
Kindle versions are also available if they prefer. You know, most people, but you know, a signed copy, hard copy, usually people want to grab it.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah.
Especially since I never do book signings. I hate traveling. And that, you can't travel anyway, hardly. Well, this pandemic stuff and all that.
August 9th, the border opens up to Americans who are vaccinated to come across to Canada. I don't know what that means for us traveling down south. They better open it up because I'm missing another Guns N' Roses concert because of this. And obviously my Canadian government doesn't understand the importance of me going to see GNR play live. All right. Thank you to Cedric, Bobby, Betty, Tim, Cat Chaser, and Michael for the amazing super chats. It really helps what we do on a nightly basis on this show. Thank you so much to our new subscribers who are tuning us in, new chatters in the chat room as well, and all the veterans, of course, listening. Here we go in 3 seconds.
Olaf. Who loves you, baby? Who loves you, baby?
We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with author Max Hawthorne. You can find his books on Amazon. This is fantastic. Scaring the daylights out of me tonight, talking Megalodon, great white sharks, and literally how they will tear us to shreds. Max, welcome back.
Howdy.
All right. Let's get to Cedric's question right off the bat here. What are your thoughts about female kayakers swallowed up by humpback whales? Do they like the taste of men or just women?
I believe that a guy was swallowed by a humpback whale recently also, so
Yes.
I think they're just happy or unhappy accidents, and the whale probably left a bad taste in his mouth either way. You know, kayaks are not very tasty.
No, but that fisherman, he was down in great white areas of Cape Cod there.
Mm.
You know, right, and I've been to that area where he was the first ships from the U.S. landed there.
Hello, Ola.
Anyways, either way, you know, here we got these great whites in those waters. I've walked along the beaches there, seeing the great white signs. Don't swim too deep. Great whites are in the area. And here's this guy diving for lobster and happens to be picked up by a humpback. Not cool.
Maybe the cetacean had a sense of humor, you know, on the malicious side. A practical joke, you know, goes a long way. I don't know.
But
they're not stupid.
Maybe he picked him up because there was a great white in the area, and he was bringing him to the surface to get the great white out of there.
Could be. Yeah, there was that one incident where a humpback was protecting a female swimmer from a big tiger shark. It even put its fin around it or something like that, I understand.
There is video of that. I've seen that video. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's a big whale. Big bodyguard, I guess you'd say.
No kidding.
Almost
Spanish.
as big as this cat. Sorry.
Go ahead, please.
No, the cat. One of the cats is over here, so you're gonna have a guest star in a minute. But let's keep going.
No problem. Spanish Fly is asking, what are the odds of having a kaiju type monsters lurking in the deep?
Well, I think that it's quite likely that we have squid that maybe hit 175 feet. So I don't think that qualifies as a kaiju. I think there's one like report of something they call like Julia or something like that. That supposedly every spring, this shadowy form, bigger than the Empire State Building, is seen moving along a certain region and stuff. But whether that's true or not, I don't know. I believe there was like some sort of like image that NASA had, like from satellites that somebody had of it, but then it was redacted across the web. Apparently, they didn't want it floating around out there. So,
all right. 11 is asking, do sea monsters show up on satellite images?
And I just answered that question. Next.
Yeah. Well, but that's also the black demon that they call it in Mexico, on the west coast of Mexico, that they believe is a megalodon or a giant 40 to 50 foot black skinned shark.
Well, a lot of times when you see these claims with these sharks, though, they turn out to just be basking sharks. Like I said, I've seen the evidence, so I believe that we have some big macro predatory sharks out there. But when I see this footage and these things like that, it invariably ends up being a basking shark. And basking sharks can grow to 40 feet in length. So people get all like bent out of shape because they do look on the surface at first glance somewhat like a white shark. They're both mackerel sharks. They have a similar body plan, except that one will like mouth you and do nothing or ignore you, and the other one might decide to make a meal out of you or not. So.
Up here in British Columbia, in the straits between Vancouver Island and the mainland, when it started becoming a heavy sailing area, there was basking sharks all over, and at that point they thought they were killer sharks. Right. Much like great whites. And they actually, the sea captains of the ferry boats and of the boats going up to Alaska and out into sea were told that if you see one of these basking sharks, run it over, kill it, because they're man eaters, and they almost took out the entire basking shark population in this area. Now, lately, it's been coming back a little bit, where they're getting up. These sharks get up to like 36, 37 feet long.
It's a shame that stuff like that happen. Honestly, it's they're completely harmless. They're slow swimming. I think the biggest ones, they top out at like 10 or 12 miles an hour on a burst, something like that. But they're not dangerous to people, generally speaking, unless you accidentally get hit with a tail. So
yeah, no kidding. No kidding. All right, let's get to another question. Gloria is asking, have you ever had or researched any mermaid stories?
I sadly have not. I have interviewed people that have seen an octopus 80 or 90 feet long. I have interviewed people that saw something that might have been a huge cephalopod off Sanibel Island take a take a manatee and eat it, like drag it under. And there's video footage of that. In fact, that's in Monsters and Marine Mysteries. I've spoken to a lot of people, including people from the 1970s, who were attacked by some gigantic mutant fish creature of some sort. We'll call it the Southside Sea Monster, but no mermaid stuff. So, sorry.
Dunkleosteus? You ever look for Dunkleosteus?
Oh, the placoderm you're talking about?
Yeah.
No, I think they haven't been around since the Devonian.
Yeah.
You definitely need some steel leader for that, though.
My son at 4 years old introduced me to the Dunkleosteus, and it took me forever to learn how to pronounce that name without butchering it. And I learned from a 4-year-old. All right, Lana is asking, you have a plesiosaur swimming video demoed at a museum. How do we know how they swam if all we have is bones?
Okay.
Or pliosaur, pardon me.
Pliosaur. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Yeah, I did in 2019 a scientific paper with paleontologists Mark McMenamin from Mount Holyoke College and Paul de La Salle, who has discovered actually the little stock monster, which is potentially a prehistoric marine reptile, an ichthyosaur that was bigger than the blue whale. Okay, so these are great guys to work with. But I had done my books, like the Kronos Rising series, the titular monster is a pliosaur called a Kronosaurus. And it has 4 large flippers and swims through the water quite fast. So plesiosaurs are, people think are like Nessie, the long neck, the body, the 4 flippers. But there was a short neck version variety called pliosaurs that had the crocodile-like head and a short neck, big predator type thing. Anyway, so when you came down to solving, like, people have been trying to figure out how do these marine reptiles swim with these 4 flippers, there had to be some benefit to it. You know what I mean? Like, what's the point? I mean, sea lions can swim with 2 flippers and quite well, right? And if you look at sea turtles, the same thing. They swim with 2 flippers, and then they have the short, smaller ones in the back, which are rudders. And also the females use them to excavate sand to, dig their nests, okay? So why have 4 flippers? And you could say, well, it's spares dangerous seas. That doesn't make sense, okay? There's got to be, so these paleontologists have put out theories over the years as to why they had 4 flippers, what they did with them, how they swam. And you had some guys out there saying that they use the rear flippers only and the front flippers to steer. Okay. And then there were other ones that said that they used the front flippers only and the rear flippers to steer. And the others said that they took turns. Front went and then the back went, or they did a figure 8. Hi, Olaf. Sorry, cat. Yes, Daddy be there in a minute. But anyway, oh God. So you probably can't hear him. He'll get louder in a minute. So
that's okay.
There's all this thing. So the notion that either front or rear only did the swimming, to me, was ridiculous. Okay, all 4 of these paddles are relatively equal in size. They had huge, powerful muscle attachment points, strong bones, etc. They are designed for power, for propulsion. Okay, nature doesn't evolve something it's meant to run marathons and then delegate it to directing traffic. Okay, it just doesn't work like that. And a battleship can be steered with rudders that are tiny compared to the ship, like the Bismarck, which got taken out by a torpedo that jammed one of its rudders. Remember? Okay.
Yes.
So there had to be a reason that these 4 flippers are working together, and it had to help the animal swim faster. Okay, and even though paleontologists, the professionals, have been trying to figure this out for 100 or 150 years, I solved it in my bathtub. And I was sitting there and I was like, how did this work? You have these 2 flippers, okay, and they're moving together. But the problem is that when you do that, you experience what we call the principle of flipper redundancy. Meaning that if you've ever been like a sculler, have you ever sculled?
No.
Okay. Well, if you look at the world records for sculling, 1 person versus 2, there's only like a 12% increase in speed. Okay, my nephews, they're scullers for their colleges and stuff, and they're phenomenal at it. And the first thing they get taught is they don't go much faster by adding additional people. See? But it's just an art form. So there's not a huge increase in speed because when they're pushing the same water, the water's already moving, see? So the extra paddles aren't doing much. So that means the paddles could not have been moving together because the plesiosaur or pliosaur wasn't getting a huge increase in speed. It wouldn't justify having 4 massive paddles like that, okay? And I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, how could this be? I'm like, wait. And then I'm like, maybe they move through different ranges of motion. Planes, let's say, of motion, okay? The water. And I was like, well, if it did like this or like this and this and this. And then I started looking at the skeletal remains. And I started noticing things. For example, that the ribs have what's called adaptive shortening. And adaptive shortening is something that takes place where nature moves body parts that would get in the way. You know how we have, like, for example, like our floating ribs are shorter than the rest? Okay, they're designed so that we can move and bend, and they're smaller and not attached. If we had ribs all the way down, we'd be like stuck, etc. So with plesiosaurs, their ribs where the paddles were shorter, and the ones where the hind paddles, the rear paddles were extremely shortened, almost non-existent. And this overwhelmingly suggested that the front flippers were able to move like that of a sea turtle or penguin, kind of. But the rear flippers were able to move higher and push up and back. And there's also adjustments in the pelvic area that suggest this as well. So when we looked at this and we put this together with past studies and such, it became obvious that the front flippers were doing the penguin thing, and the rear flippers, instead of going down like this, were pushing back, like you doing a flutter kick in the pool. Your arms are in a crawl stroke are going like that, and your legs are doing this the whole time. Okay, so that was their secret. The rear ones were pushing like this, and the front ones were doing that, and then changing angle and direction, etc., which made them incredibly mobile. And their increase in speed was 40 or 50%, and their acceleration was off the charts. So that explained how it worked. And we put we did it the paper, and then we put out this formal animation to demonstrate it. And when you see the animation, people can go on my YouTube channel, Max Hawthorne's book trailers and videos, I think it's called, or something. It's there, or you can look up the what she was saying about the museums have it. Ava the Pliosaur, it's called. If you look up Ava, that's my daughter. So the Pliosaur was named after her. If you look up Ava the Pliosaur, you'll find the museum demos and the videos and all that stuff. But that's basically what happened. These paddles move like this, and the other one's back, and it let the animal swim whoosh, whoosh, very fast, very powerfully, accelerate, turn, lethal.
There you go. All right, let's move on here.
Version. Sorry.
YJ is asking, how would proof of a living megalodon change our current archaeological understanding?
I don't think it would change our understanding of archaeology, but it would certainly freak a lot of people out, and marine biologists and shark enthusiasts the world over would obviously be jumping for joy, etc. I think the biggest problem finding Megalodon is that orcas would tear it to pieces. And that's just a sad fact of life. Killer whales a lot of times have a reputation of being a-holes, we'll put it politely and stuff. They will slaughter a big whale shark for no apparent reason. They sometimes they seem like a little on the malicious side and stuff. And a big shark that can't swim very fast would be like Messerschmitts attacking like a flying fortress that has no tail gunner and can't shoot at them when they come at it from the back. The Megalodon's teeth would only be in the front. So they would come at it and they'd lacerate its pectoral fins and its genitals, and its caudal fin, and they would tear it down and rip it apart and turn it over and eat its liver with some fava beans and a fine Chianti. That kind of thing. Yes. So
Judd is asking, how can we be so sure that there aren't 40-plus foot sharks that have the anatomy and physiology to swim fast?
Well, the marine biologists who have tested all these things have stated unequivocally, and that's also in Monsters and Marine Mysteries, that the white shark's top swimming speed, the basking shark is able to match it in terms of acceleration, power, and how high it can get up out of the water. And a 26 and a half, I think, of a foot basking shark topped out at 12 miles an hour. So the big great whites that you're seeing that are jumping up out of the water, they're not going any faster than that, or a little bit more, but not much. They're not hitting 25 or 30 miles an hour, etc. And they're only 16 feet long. They're not 26 feet long. See, so the slower they are, the bigger they are, the slower they're going to get. It's just anatomy. They just physically can't generate that much thrust or lift based on having a skeleton made of cartilage. And you're not going to find anybody out there. Whale sharks are the slowest of the slow. And you would think like a whale shark or a basking shark, people would say, well, they eat plankton, so they don't have to go fast. But a blue whale eats plankton, and it's going to be 100 feet long and weigh 200 tons, and it swims at 30 miles an hour. Whale sharks have enemies. White sharks will prey on them. Orcas will kill them. So you would think they'd be able to swim fast to escape a predator, right? But they can't. That's why they got that armor-plated caudal keel to try and protect them, crumple zone, so they can take a hit or two and get away.
Cosmic Floor is asking, how far inland have megalodon teeth been discovered?
I do not know. I'm sorry, it's true.
but from what I heard, in North Carolina, it's a few miles.
Well, you're going to remember that area was underwater.
Yeah.
So, you're going back 3.6 million years ago. Most of Florida was underwater, etc. So remember, what we have now is not what was then. See, so ocean levels change, global warming, freezing, etc.
So if anybody was in North Carolina or South Carolina, I think more North Carolina,
Cooper River and all that stuff.
try the riverbanks, try the streams where you may find some crayfish hanging on out.
Yeah, if you find, let's put it this way. I mean, we have some property like in Cape Coral and stuff like that, okay? And everywhere you look in the soil, there's seashells, fossilized also, okay? So that whole area was underwater. So it's just if you get lucky and you dig enough, you will probably find some megalodon teeth because that area used to be part of the ocean. So, and other teeth, obviously, white shark teeth, tiger shark teeth, bull shark teeth, fossilized, all different kinds.
Jennifer's wondering if you knew about this giant isopod that attacked a shark a few years back.
Yeah, I've seen the footage. Isopods are carnivorous. It's a hideous, unpleasant-looking creature.
What is an isopod?
Well, like the roly-polies that you see? But picture a marine version of that. They could be like yay big. And they usually eat dead things, but they will latch onto something live and they will chew it up, etc., and so forth. I think the thing it was attacking was a dogfish or something, not the big ferocious shark, obviously. But it's I like when I did I developed in one of the Kronos Rising books the plesiosaur lice. These marine reptiles had, and they were sort of like that, but they were more based off of like the fish lice I saw in some halibut that we caught in Alaska. Disgusting. Ugh. Clear, transparent. You touch them, they still wiggle after the fish is dead. It's horrible. Sorry.
Big J is wondering, how do you explain the black Russian deep sea blob?
I don't know what that is.
Me either. Me either. To be absolutely blunt, me either. What about creatures like on the West Coast here, said from to travel from Northern California all the way to Southern Alaska and right along British Columbia, Washington, and Oregon, the Cadborosaurus?
Well, one of the marine creatures out there that I'm a firm believer in, appears to be a species of very, very large marine turtle that was filmed off of, I believe it was Vancouver Island in 1969 by a fisherman named Gary LaMotta. And it's in the book, but also people go to my website, like maxhawthorne.com or kronosrising.com, and you just put in Gary LaMotta. It's GARRYLIIMATTA, if memory serves. He filmed with a Super 8 camera a gigantic turtle, its head and neck sticking up out of the water. And the footage is very degraded and dark because it was like viewed so many times and sat in a box for decades and decades. But I was able to take frames of it and enhance them, and you can see that he did indeed film some sort of immense turtle's head and neck sticking up out of the water. Now, the turtle that Gary saw, he said was 38 feet long, and it didn't have a shell, so it was sort of like a slim version of a leatherback, and it was very, very fast, probably a piscivore, which means a fish eater, carnivorous, or at least semi-carnivorous, let's say. And when I was doing the book, it turned out that Gary's friend, who was with another boat and was with him, Gary passed away years ago, but his friend Earl is still alive. And so I did a Zoom interview with Earl at length, and we discussed the sighting and everything that was involved with it. And he was quite emphatic that what they saw was as big as their boats. Both of them, their boats were around 38 feet long, pale grayish, almost white in color, this big ghostly sort of like turtle that was built more like a sea lion, though. So that may be your Cadborosaurus, because this turtle has a long 8-foot head and neck that sticks up out of the water. And the pictures, I don't know if I have it. Let's see. I got a copy of Monsters and Marine Mysteries here. Let me see if I can find it. Although it's going to be in black and white, so. I don't know where it is in the book. It's a big book. Let's see. Talking to myself.
I'm just listening, man. I'm just trying to figure this all out.
Sure. Let's see. Come on, come to daddy. I know you're in here somewhere. Okay, so I hate black and white pictures in books. So, like, this is really gonna be hard for people to see, but this is like some of the frames, okay, in the book. And if you look here, this was the image of the thing, and then we redlined it to try and indicate the eyes and the beak and the folds of skin on the neck and all this stuff. So it's easier to see, obviously, in the Kindle version or when you have it in front of you. But what he filmed was apparently some sort of ginormous turtle. And I actually did a sketch, you can see here, based on the still to try and bring it to life for people and stuff. So,
Right.
But anyway, so I mean, this Cadborosaurus, there's been oodles of sightings that are in the book that show that it seems to be the same species, and it goes back 100 or 200 years of sightings of this animal. Not the same animal, but this same type of creature. So,
All right. On that note, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to our break here at the top of the hour here. We are 2 hours down with Max Hawthorne. And if you like sharks, this is the show for you to listen to, even on our free archives that we do have for you on our YouTube channel, Apple iTunes, Google Play, you name it. We're there. Spotify, SoundCloud. We're all over the place. Spaced Out Radio has Max Hawthorne for another 30 minutes. Hour 3 with Max kicking off right after this. All right, my friend, I'm going to run my dogs out. I'll be right back, okay?
I will hold down the fort.
All right, I got you muted, okay?
Good. Cool.
Be right back, people. Dave Scott. All right. I am back. And what I'll get you to do, Max, is I will get you to, when we get to the break at the bottom of the hour, I will get you to just hold on until we are done. And then I'll say a proper good night to you during the break, okay? If that's cool.
By your command.
Oh, very nice. Nice Battlestar Galactica you used there. Half Cylon, are you?
A little, yes.
Excellent.
Cylonian, yes.
Very nice. Very nice. Used to love that show.
Yes, it was. I prefer the old one, to be honest, to the remake. Though.
Yeah. No. Anything that had Dirk Benedict in it back in the 80s, it was good stuff.
And Richard Hatch and Lorne Green.
Yeah.
Wait, people are hearing this, aren't they?
Yes.
Whatever.
Why?
I love Battlestar Galactica.
You're allowed to say that.
Okay, good.
You're allowed to say that.
The theme song was phenomenal. That music.
Oh, yeah.
Forget it. Whew.
Oh, yeah.
I play it when I come out of the shower. Dun, 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 dun. Never mind.
Very nice.
There's
Very
a visual size of a Battlestar, yeah.
Hi, Terrible Times. How are you? Nice to see you back in the chat room. And no politics, no COVID in the chat room, people. Listen to the Spookles the cat. She's got her going on. She knows what's happening. So do you. No vaccination talk. This is a freebie night. 3 hours of good stuff here. Thank you, Spookles the cat. Oh. All right, we're on in like 10 seconds. Thank you to Cedric, Bobby, Betty, Tim, Cat Chaser, Michael for the super chats. Here we go with the third and final hour, everyone.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Frigorific. Frigorific is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on. For the final time tonight, we introduce Max Hawthorne. He is a great author. You can just get any of his books on Amazon. We're going to give away a book by the end of the show to any one of our radio or YouTube listeners, followers, subscribers. Okay. And Max, what do you want to do with this?
With the book?
Yes.
It's your show, your host, your rules. I mean, when I do book giveaways, I usually we take people that either post comments or share stuff or something like that, or guests or whatever it is, and then we just numerically raffle it off. I ask my Alexa to pick a number between whatever and whatever, have the list, and then boom, and that kind of thing. But if you want to do this, I got, this is Monsters and Marine Mysteries. Notice the antique giant squid image there and stuff. And yeah, I'll sign it and send it to whichever one of your listeners you want. U.S. only, please. Okay. U.S. only. Priority mail. Yes. I'm not going for that UK, Germany, $25 shipping and stand in line at the post office thing again. I got a book to finish. Sorry.
Not a problem.
USA. Okay. USA.
It is the Olympics. It is time for a little bit of, you know, flag waving. Let's call it that. Okay, so for our American listeners,
I'm just lazy.
we'll say this. All right. Let's say that you have to tweet us, both me and Max, so at Spaced Out Radio and at Max_Hawthorne. All right. You have to tweet us on why you think Megalodon is real. And Max, you can choose the best one and make the announcement on Twitter. How about that?
It would be my pleasure. The
There
best
you go.
one in terms of like the reason why they think the shark is still alive.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes. Let's have some fun. Let's have some woo with this.
Okay. Sounds
Never
good.
go wrong with a little bit of woo. I got to say thank you to John, who sent me a picture. Says sharks kill 5 people annually, deer kill 130 people annually, cows kill 22 people annually, jellyfish 40 people, ants kill 30 people annually, horses 20 people, and the hippopotamus 2,900 people annually.
Ooh. Looks like the water horse is a little dangerous there.
I would agree with you. You know, them hippos, they're just upset. I mean, cranky house cats they are. All right. Betty Boo is asking, are there larger sea creatures near the Arctic regions?
I guess it depends on the sea creature. I mean, the colossal squid is found in very cold waters, etc. And you have certain whales that like to frequent there, but I don't think the biggest ones are. No, blue whales don't like to go out there, and finbacks don't like to go out there for the most part and stuff. So I would imagine the larger whales prefer more temperate climates, like myself.
Well, you know what? Why not? Stick to the warmer parts. Mark is asking, did you ever hear about the Carnival Cruise monster, an unidentified creature witnessed by Paul George, a worker on a Carnival Cruise Line ship?
I have not had any luck in terms of finding additional witnesses for this. We know that on the ship, the Carnival Breeze, where Paul George saw this creature pacing the ocean liner, that a handful of passengers that were there saw it also. But if any of them had a camera handy or a phone handy and took pictures or stuff like that, I haven't been able to get the word out enough for somebody to reach out to me. But hopefully this will help.
So what happened there?
This is back in, I think, 2014, and a UK resident, great guy, name of Paul George, as it says right on there. He was working on the Carnival Breeze, and a handful of passengers called him over. They were on the top deck, and they pointed this immense animal that was swimming next to the ship. And they said, "Can you tell us what that is?" And Paul had been on a lot of ships, and he was familiar with sharks, whale sharks, and all sorts of whales and everything else like that. And this was nothing he'd ever seen before. He described it as he saw its head, neck, and the upper back. Okay. And just that portion was 50 plus feet long. And he was able to compare this to the size of their lifeboats that they put or drills in the water. So he knew what he was talking about. He said it had a head like a massive crocodile or alligator. Its skin was smooth, like, and almost shiny looking. Like slippery looking, like leathery, with possibly either black or like really, really dark gray with a little white flecks on it. Smooth skin and massive. He said its back, when the back broke the surface, it was like a submarine coming up. Water was streaming off of it. He said that it, when it breathed, it must have been coming off for air. The water around it turned white around its head. So it didn't blow like a whale. There wasn't any big like psh or anything like that. And it paced the ship for a little while, and then it veered off and it swam back. This is the middle, like the Gulf of Mexico. I think it was in September, maybe 2014. Once again, I don't have all the stuff in front of me, but from the description, like I picked his brain for days and days and days on this thing, and showed him every image of every marine creature imaginable of any size, etc. And all that. Definitely wasn't a whale, according to him. Wasn't a cephalopod, which at first I thought maybe this was one of these immense squid, and it was swimming along beside the boat. Definitely not a squid, an air breather, etc. So, and it seems to suggest that it was some sort of immense marine reptile, like a mosasaur or something like that. That was the the thought that eventually came around and stuff. But there have been a lot of mosasaur sightings, creatures that are described like that and stuff. And there was one from the Monongahela incident from the 1800s where a whaling vessel killed one that was that size and dissected, but processed it like they would a whale, melted it down and all this stuff. Horrible. But anyway, so that's the deal. But all the info is in Monsters Marine Mysteries. The book has all that sighting and tons and tons of other stuff.
So once again, another unknown creature of the oceans.
Mm-hmm. And he said, I asked him if this thing could be the super predator, for example, and he goes, he has a heavy UK accent. He's a big guy, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta tell you, mate, that thing, it a great white shark like 9 feet long. What do you fill this thing up? It was so massive. You had to see it. It was like gigantic. I mean, just huge. This thing feared nothing. Top predator in the whole ocean." I get a sore throat every time I do his voice.
But I mean, this is a legitimate sailor who spent his life on the sea, has seen everything from blue whales to great white sharks and everything in between. Right. I mean, is there a reason to look at this gentleman and say, maybe your sea legs caught up with your sea eyes, or your sea eyes caught up with your sea legs?
Yeah. Well, when I interviewed him, which was multiple times, back in my previous career, I spent a lot of time interviewing people and stuff. I literally interviewed like 50,000 people. Okay. And I'm pretty good at picking people apart and seeing if they're BSing me or not, etc. I threw lots of traps his way and all sorts of things, tried to trip him up a little bit, etc. I never found a shred of evidence that suggested he wasn't being completely truthful. The only thing that was disappointing was that he told me that he had taken a photo of this animal as it was turning away from them with his cell phone. And then at the next port, he got there was a bar room scuffle and his phone was lost, destroyed, whatever, in the scuffle, etc. and all that. So we have besides his sketch he drew at the time, what he saw and everything, we didn't have any proof beyond that.
And there is no other eyewitness testimony to a creature like this.
Well, the hope is that I'm hoping that if enough word gets out, that there were some other people on the ship that might have, that saw this thing, but that also took a photo. And if they come forward, we'll have what we need. I mean, because this thing is potentially the largest predator around. It may be on par with one of these mega squid. So we'll see. But that would be something,
Yeah, that would definitely be something. I'm just baffled by that because, see, this is one of my fears of the ocean, my friend, is there's always something bigger out there.
Yeah.
I remember my work partner who I worked with years ago. He went fishing off the west coast of Vancouver Island, and they were using 300-pound test braided line. They were fishing for salmon and whatever else was big out there that day. And something hit his buddy's line, and it took off about 150 yards, totally peeled off the reel, and then snap. And
I love getting spooled like that, by the way. It's happened to me a couple times.
Yes. Yeah. And then, within seconds, my buddy's rod did the exact same thing. So they look at the fishing guide and they say, "What the hell was that?" And the fishing guide, they're a couple miles off of shore. And the fishing guy goes, "I don't know." He goes, "It could be a whale. It could be a shark. It could be a Russian submarine. We really don't know. We'll never know. So let's just be thankful it didn't sink us, whatever it is."
Well, I mean, in a situation like that, if you're getting spooled, if you got 300-pound test braid, first off, and you crank the drag, I'm assuming they got big game reels way down, and you still can't slow down whatever it is, it sounds like a predator because it came back for seconds. See? So that makes sense, whatever they were using for bait and stuff, where if it was stealing their salmon. Orcas do that, but that doesn't, you would see an orca would come up and such, But in a situation like that, you need to chase that thing down. You can't just wait until you run out of line and get spooled. You know, you got to like kick it in gear and you got to chase after this thing. You try and regain some of that line and then try and keep pressure on it and then wage a war of attrition until you can try and tire it out. But I mean, if it's something insanely huge, like you can't, like if you have an 8-ton killer whale, you know, on a shark rod, you can't stop that thing. You know, and if it dives straight down, there's nothing you can do. You can't chase it down and you're still going to get spooled, you know? So, but you know, you got to try and you got to make your move. You can't just sit there and wait and say, I'm hoping he's not going to take all the line. Hoping. Oh, no, here we go. You know, it happens.
It totally happens.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, do you think there are, and I realize this will be a very hypothetical question, but do you think there are some real monsters still living in the ocean?
Yes.
Even dinosaur type?
I don't know about dinosaurs, but I believe that there seems to be some sort of marine crocodile or marine reptile that we haven't seen. I'm convinced that the Gary LaMotta's turtle is real. I mean, there's film of it, even though it's crappy. You know, I mean, deteriorated. You know, he filmed something legitimate, and I have the witness that backed up his testimony and stuff. So, yeah, there's got to be stuff out there. It's inevitable. I mean, the law of averages, a mathematical certainty that we have very, very big sea creatures that we haven't seen yet. And if they don't breathe air, like a squid or a shark or some other huge fish, then why would we ever see them unless they have a reason to come to the surface?
And once again, we want to remind our listeners, both on radio and on YouTube here tonight, that you have to follow myself at Spaced Out Radio and Max, at Max_Hawthorne in order to win the book that he is giving away tonight. And you have to tweet us out your reasoning why you believe Megalodon is still real today and still alive today. So make sure you're following us, because you can't just tweet to us and not follow us. That's not fair. You got to give us a follow as well. So let's make sure of that. I know a couple people have already tweeted in, and then in a couple days, once the tweets get out, Max will make the decision on who the winner is on that book. But as we got about 8 minutes to go here with you tonight, Max, I want to ask you, get back into the whole Megalodon big shark species. We're starting to see sharks now up here in Canada. Seeing a great white shark is becoming
commonplace,
shall we say. Previous to this, you'd have to wait for an El Nino or to bring the warmer waters up. Now, a number of years ago, going back 25 years ago, there was a large great white shark that was caught off the coast of Vancouver Island following the salmon up. And great white shark.
It wasn't a salmon shark.
No, it was a great white. It was reported as a great white.
Okay.
And, so there is a lot of these sharks now appearing in Halifax, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland on the East Coast. The great whites have been spotted around Victoria and the lower part of Vancouver Island. Are we seeing this, because people have started a love affair, even though we're scared of great whites, but we've started a love affair with great whites. Have we seen an expanding population of these creatures? And because there is this expansion of creatures, they have to find their own new territories so that way they can feed and survive.
Well, I think that first off, once Jaws came out in the 70s and all that, and the shark fishing craze, really, their populations were decimated by commercial fishermen, by recreational fishermen, etc. The white shark is protected in a lot of places now. So its population is rebounding, God willing. I mean, the biggest threat are the shark finners, okay? And that's, they just don't care, honestly. I've seen on eBay, for example, recently, well, this is probably going to get political, so I know we don't do that stuff, but, if you see on eBay, like, a place like a Chinese eBayer selling individual great white shark teeth, and it's obvious that they all came from a huge specimen that was over 20 feet long, from the size of the teeth, all different teeth. That they killed that shark and they ripped all those teeth out of its jaw, okay? And that probably happened with a finning ship. But fortunately, the white shark is a little smarter than some species, and maybe they're learning to avoid these ships, maybe not. Maybe the blood from all the other sharks being killed warns them away. I like to think that. But I like to see that their population is rebounding. They're probably more getting into places that they used to be, as opposed to finding new territory. We just didn't know they were there. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't have the technology 40, 50 years ago that we have now and stuff in terms of drones and planes and everything else like that, to study everything around us. So the only downside is this is a giant predator, and sometimes people are going to, fall victim to it. And that's a terrifying thing. The last thing you want is to, fall victim to a shark like that or lose a loved one. And it is a very dangerous animal.
So if you were looking for these mega sharks, the 25 to 35 footers, where would you look?
I wouldn't be looking close to shore because they would be out where the food supply is. They'd be following whales, maybe looking to snag a calf. I mean, a big shark like that is not going to try and attack adult whales. The whole thing with Megalodon is they show that the great whales were starting to come into their own as it was starting to go downhill. And that meant that it was difficult for a very large Megalodon to tackle a big whale because the whale was huge and powerful and fast. And they live in pods, and sperm whales had teeth and jaws and were even bigger than they are today. Sperm whales used to hit 85 feet, the males. 85 feet. That's documented from Soviet whaling records and stuff. That's a giant. That's 150 tons of sperm whale, for example. Okay, 4 times the weight of a big Megalodon. So, these whales were so big that it was just like a problem for them to prey on. So now they'd be looking for a calf if they could get it, or they'd be looking for a sick or an old whale, maybe a female that was in labor and having problems or something like that, or one that got hit by a ship strike, a prop, wound that killed it, etc. And that happens, unfortunately, a lot. If you want to see a shark like that, you find a drifting carcass out at sea of a whale, a fresh kill, and maybe you attach like a camera to it or two, and then you follow it around from a distance or something like that, and you wait. At nighttime is probably when something like that's going to come up, and it's going to drag it under and rip it to pieces, and, nom, 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 nom.
We got 3 minutes left. You mentioned how smart sharks tend to be, especially the great whites. Do you think this creature, whatever it is pretty damn smart to stay out of the way?
I think that any animal that has half a brain in its head can very quickly learn areas that are dangerous or not. So, I mean, for example, I'm in favor of catch and release fishing, even for the great white shark, when it comes to shark fishing in coastal waters, because I believe that the white shark, when it's caught and released, will associate boats with danger. And it'll be less inclined to come to areas where boats are, meaning our harbors, our docks, and places like that, where our swimmers are, which would protect people. At the same time, it would help the shark recognize finning ships as dangerous, and they would avoid them as well. So they learn. They're not completely stupid. They're not whale smart, or certainly not killer whale smart, okay? But they're not idiots. That didn't sound very scientific, if you know what I'm saying, but well, probably as smart as a dog. Let's put it that way.
So for you, seeing as we got about 90 seconds left,
yes,
where can people find more information on your work, your books, and everything that's going on?
Well, I'm on Facebook if people want to follow me. Let me see, what is it? You think I'd know this, under Max Hawthorne Author. For some reason, there's a lot of people pretending to be me out there, calling themselves Max Hawthorne and stuff. But if you look up Max Hawthorne Author on Facebook, you can find me. And you already gave out the Twitter thing. But my official website is maxhawthorne with an E on the end.com or kronosrising.com. It's a great website if people want to come check it out. There's a mailing list you can get on. There's a paleo gallery where I feature artists that paint prehistoric life, especially marine life, from all over the world. They get to feature their artwork is in there too. There's free book excerpts that people can download, all sorts of great stuff. But yeah, I'm always happy to hear from readers, and obviously Amazon carries all the novels and books and monsters and marine mysteries also.
I'm telling you, thank you for scaring the daylights out of me tonight. I really do appreciate that.
And I didn't even have to go topless to do it.
Nope, it's true. It's absolutely true. But we appreciate it.
Sure.
We appreciate it. And I'm still going to believe that Megalodon or some mega shark is out there. And
You're probably right. You're probably
right.
right. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you on that.
Well, I'd love to do this again, my friend. I really would. This was a lot of fun, and really appreciate you taking the time to join us with our audience here tonight. Thank you so much, Max Hawthorne.
It was my pleasure. I really appreciate the invite.
All right, coming up next, we have the SOR Newswire. We have the Thought of the Dave. But first, John Hudson comes in for the unbiased UFO report. We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio when we return.
Hello, this is
all right,
Tom.
my friend. We're clear.
Did you want me to stick around for a little bit, you said?
No, I just wanted to say a proper good night to you.
Oh, thank you. You're very kind. I really enjoyed the show. You have a lot of nice people. Also, your chat room. I know it's pretty. The guy was cracking me out. It's still on there. Says if that happened to me, I'm tossing Dave overboard, cranking the motor, and getting out of there.
Yeah, that's one of my fans. That's
nice.
faster.
I know. I was mentioning that paleontologist friend of mine, Mark McMenamin. He's famous for this theory on the Triassic Kraken. And at one point, we were talking about the possibility of taking a ship out, like not a ship, but a big fishing boat, and trying to actually catch one of these mega squid that I was telling you about.
Right.
And I was like, dude, I said, if that thing comes to the surface, it's going to come after the boat. I said, and believe me, because he's like, we'll have drones flying around videotaping. I said, what the drone's going to see is me pushing you in this thing's way so I can jump in a Zodiac and get the heck out of there.
Oh,
okay?
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. That's what needs to be done. Always have a sacrificial lamb. You always
Secret Service.
Right?
Yes.
Always have a sacrificial lamb. My friend, I will let you go for tonight.
2:30.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll stay in touch, Max. Take care.
Thanks. Have a great night. Bye.
Good night. Max Hawthorne, everyone. I'm not gonna lie, that show scared the living piss out of me. Oh. What are you laughing at?
The only thing I can think, Dave, is that, assuming you believe in reincarnation, that you actually, one of your lives ended by a shark. I think that's because your fear, your let's say your concern about sharks is it's hard because it's accurate if you focus on the right facts, but overall it's a little overboard, but I know it's very genuine, so it's got to be related to some childhood situation or some past life or something. I don't know.
You know what it is my sisters, when I was 7 years old, wanted me to watch Jaws, and they forced me to watch it, and ever since then I have absolutely been freaked out by them.
Siblings are the cause of much revenue in the therapy world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, that's lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever read the book?
Which book?
Jaws?
No.
It's not easy to get. It was published in Reader's Digest, but it's actually it's actually a really good book. I don't recommend you read it, but for anyone else,
I can tell you right now, I'm not going to read it.
I wouldn't.
No.
You know what the problem I have with Megalodon is?
What's that?
It's not big enough. To me, 50 feet, that's not a big enough animal. Like what they did to the shark in that movie, where they made it like, the Megalodon like way bigger than whatever it was. They made that to me looks like a Megalodon. My opinion, a Megalodon should be at least 100 feet, if not like 150 feet. 50 feet, that's not that big of a shark.
Either way, it could swallow you in one fucking bite.
This is true.
I'm not messing with that. Hey, Super Duke, how you doing, buddy? World Bigfoot Radio. If you're a fan of ours, you got to be a fan of theirs. Go hit subscribe on World Bigfoot Radio if you don't mind. Corey Christopher, what's happening, man? good to see you. B. Hoff, dropping the gloves with Raul in the chat room tonight. Let's be nice. Yeah, let's be nice. All right. Let's see here. Detailing Academy in Italy says we need 6 hours. Joe Hudson, you're Joe Hudson. Show on aliens, please.
Very kind. I'll let my brother Joe know.
I'm telling you right now that people are starting to love you. The reactions,
the feedback's been very polite. Very nice.
It has been. More than others we've had on this show, I'll tell you that.
Well, I think one of the helpful things is to have people from all different regions. People have been studying it for a long time. People have been studying it for only a couple of years. People who are new to it, because it's a lot easier to relate to someone who's in kind of the same cadence of absorbing information that you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and right now the only information I've observed is I am never going in the fucking ocean again, ever. Mega sharks.
That shark thing I sent you, that was encouraging, wasn't it?
No. Didn't you hear about mega sharks that they're 25 to 30
years?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'm the guy who will always have shit happen. That's why I don't do it. That's why I don't do anything. Hold on. We got 5 seconds. Damn you, John Hudson. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Now it's time for the Unbiased UFO Report.
Hello, Dave. How are you today, sir? Ooh, yeah.
This is where we are joined by John Hudson a couple times a week to come in and tell us the latest news on what's happening with UFOs all across the world. And John, we got some interesting news tonight. We're going to start off with an old story that's becoming new again. And there is this ever-living battle between Travis Walton and Mike Rogers, who is driving the truck way back when Travis Walton was hit by a beam by that UFO and disappeared for 5 days. Now, Rogers seemed to go off his rocker a couple of months ago, saying that the whole incident was hoaxed, it was fake, Travis is lying for money and publicity, and then he said he was misquoted after him and Travis have patched things up, and now there's a bunch of people questioning whether or not Fire in the Sky really happened.
Yeah, it's once again, it's a good thing for someone to study who's new to this, because it shows how challenging this all is because of all the different personalities and all the different baggage that everyone carries into this. But there's a lot of dark water between these folks, and I know that Travis at one point earlier in the year, around the same time that Mike Rogers said that he was no longer to be considered a witness for the event, that they'd had a falling out, and that he was kind of separating himself from Mike, and so as a result, most of the melee that we've been seeing hasn't really involved Travis. Travis is kind of staying out of it, and most of it is between Mike Rogers and this new guy that basically named Ryan Gordon. And as you mentioned, basically what happened was that Gordon recorded a conversation that they had. I believe the note said with his watch, which I'm a little surprised because I've talked to my wife with my watch and it doesn't sound as good as his recording does. And basically, what he published as a recording was, basically, Mike basically saying, we talked about it. It was a hoax. We planned it, all this stuff. And it was incredibly, I mean, it was really damaging material in many ways. And this was essentially in March, and very shortly after it, Mike Rogers went on to, I believe it was called Coffee and UFOs, and which, as a side note, I tried to go back and re-listen to that on YouTube, and that video has now been marked private. So I don't know why that is, but that video has not been marked private, so you can't see it anymore. But I listened to it when it first happened, and Mike was very kind of like, oh, I don't know why he did this. This is so weird. He took me totally out of context. He clipped the video. He clipped the sound. He moved stuff around. He just made me sound. He goes, I talked about the fact that we had discussed the idea of doing a hoax at times in our lives, but not that it was this event we were going to hoax. And he basically laid out a very logical explanation for why this recording had come out, and that was basically in the April timeframe, right after this March announcement. But the story persisted, and now most recently, 3 days ago, on Erica Luke's show, she had a 4-hour show that was basically Ryan Gordon came on for the second half, and Mike Rogers was on for the first half, so 2 hours and 2 hours. And it was not a pleasant interview. Rogers was, it was just Rogers' portion of the interview was challenging. And then unfortunately, when Ryan Gordon came on, he was much more polished, much more together, much more fluid, and really seemed to win over the hosts of the podcast. And so if you just listened to that podcast, you would walk away thinking that the whole Travis Walton story is a hoax, and it's not that simple. And so I'm not saying that I know for sure, where the dice fall. I, personally, I'm not putting a whole lot of weight in much of this, because I know there's back channel things going on between these gentlemen. I know there's a lawsuit that's somehow involved between Mike Rogers and Ryan Gordon, not involving Travis particularly, but it's gotten very messy and very convoluted, and it doesn't help because it's causing more and more fights between people in the community. People saying, oh, I cannot believe you still believe Travis Walton after that news came out, and other people saying it's not conclusive. And so it's messy and very unfortunate.
Do you think what a lot of people in the UFO world think, that Mike Rogers is a little jealous of all the attention that Travis Walton has? Because when the movie Fire in the Sky came out, they were doing interviews everywhere, whether it was Sally Jesse Raphael, whether it was Oprah, it was Mike, and it was Travis together. They were a team. And I believe Travis was still married to Mike's sister at the time.
And that's an important point, right? That's an important data point between the two of them, because I mean, I can tell you, I have a little sister, and it's hard to think clearly when you think your sister's been slighted in any way.
So do you think now, though, that Mike Rogers is trying to get the best of Travis to try and not, in his opinion, Travis off the pedestal?
I think it's entirely possible. I don't know enough about all the details to personally make any judgment at this point. But I will say that we know that there was a breaking of the relationship between Travis and Mike. We know that it involved money. There was some conversation about Mike believing he was owed some returns for some sketches he did and for some other things. And so I know that there was a separation over money. We know that the marriage to the sister added extra fuel to the relationship. And but I get the feeling, and this is just me, but I get the feeling that Mike Rogers would have essentially just, separated himself and kind of faded into the distance, if not for this conversation that Ryan Gordon recorded. And I think it's really the, right or wrong, it's really what Ryan Gordon's doing that's really throwing all the fuel on the fire. And I don't know what Ryan Gordon's angle is, but
is it Ryan Gordon's fault? I apologize. I don't know who the gentleman is. Yeah. I've never heard his show, but is it really his fault, or is he doing his job and bringing a topic to the realm of discussion?
That's the challenge, and it gets muddier because the other challenge is that Ryan Gordon was working on the new Fire in the Sky film that Travis had been talking about, at least according to him. So he claims to still have a good relationship with Travis, and so it's the deeper you go into the story, it gets muddier and muddier and less pleasant. But unfortunately, it is being up. And the thing I'm challenged with is that if you look at all the different stories in this community over the whole history, a couple of them should end up proving wrong, right? I mean, we have enough major stories now in this world that statistically, at least one of them is going to end up being wrong. And if one of them ends up being wrong, misrepresented in any way, it doesn't shed anything on anything else. Each story has to be considered individually. So even if this one goes one way or the other, it's not that you can use this to say that anything else is valid or not valid. And so I think it's unfortunate that people are treating it as as this stick to hit each other with.
Well, this is kind of disappointing in order to try and find this out, because the people who don't want any of this to be real and want to stick the UFO and extraterrestrial people back in the wingnut closet where they feel we belong are only going to gain gas from this fire. And I really don't appreciate that. All right, let's go to the National Reconnaissance Organization. They have a deep space tracker. Tell us what this is about.
So this is funny. So basically the way this came out is because they're currently in Europe trying to negotiate for a location for one of the new dishes. And so I don't know all the locations the dishes will be, but this is for a new system that the NRO is planning to stand up. And it's an improvement over the existing system. The existing system has a range of about 12,000 miles. This new system will have a range of about 22,000 miles. And basically what it will do is it will give us a range of 22,000 miles around the Earth where we will be able to detect and track anything larger than a football. So that's pretty good fidelity for that sort of range. However, and I created a simple graphic to show this, which I'll post up, and I've already posted on my Twitter account. If you consider the fact that the moon averages about 238,000 miles. It goes up and down because of its elliptical rotation, but on average it's about 238,000 miles. And so basically what that means is that there's another 110,000 miles between the edge of this range and the moon that we don't watch that carefully. Now that's not totally true, because there are deep space networks that look for objects, but they're looking for much larger objects. And the fidelity that this is going to be doing, the size of a football, means that we're going to have great fidelity within that 22,000 mile range. But I have to admit, I think it's going to be a little bit of a surprise to everyone that the range is as shallow as it is compared to just the orbit of the moon.
Okay, so are they doing this to try and compete with NASA and SETI to try and find if there is alien type craft coming into this atmosphere or our space area?
I think that the entire public and documented catalyst for this program is the commercial space world. The fact that there are now so many satellites going up. NORAD is having a bear of a time tracking all these objects. Right now they can only track to 12,000 miles because the NRO, their data will feed into everyone else. And basically, I believe the main catalyst is that. However, with that said, just as the DOE capability to look for nuke vibrations and acoustic sounds have found that whale pod and can be used to look for UAPs and so forth, I believe that this network will also be very, very useful when it comes to looking for UAP, UFO type traffic, as well as the James Webb Telescope, which, as a side note, is actually going to be at 175,000 miles, so 50,000 miles beyond the moon, and so that will be able to actually see quite a bit as well.
I know they'll never tell us, but because the space race is opening up, I could see the importance of getting something more sophisticated up there. Wanting to keep track on whether it's China, Russia, India, Pakistan, or whoever else is sending equipment up and rockets into space, even the Japanese. But was there any extraterrestrial talk?
There was none, but I wouldn't expect there to be. And honestly, they didn't talk about any targets at all. All they talked about was the fact that they would be able to monitor any target larger than the football, which basically probably means it's actually larger than the golf ball. I would be willing to bet that they're rising that a bit to be safe. But basically they're just saying we will be able to track any object, because the United States does, because of just our assets, we do end up playing an alert network sort of a role in the world, in that if we see someone else's satellite having trouble, or we see something else in a collision course with someone else's satellite, we will reach out and we will notify them, and we will coordinate with them and try to help them deal with it, assuming they want our help.
All right, John, that's all the time we have for tonight. We will talk to you in 2 nights' time and get another full report on the Unbiased UFO Report. Great job as always.
Thank you, sir. You have a great evening.
Take care. John Hudson, everybody, our intrepid UFO reporter on the Unbiased UFO Report. Let's get to the news. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR News Wire at the back end of every show, where we get to the strange, the weird, the wacky, and sometimes the odd. Hey, Canada. Hey, United States. We're almost there in order to visit each other once again. Fully vaccinated U.S. citizens will be able to visit Canadians and their family and friends without restrictions beginning August 9th. It's a big step toward a return to normal, along with the world's longest land border. Thanks to the rising vaccination and declining COVID cases, we are able to move forward with adjusted border measures, said the spry and chipper Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, sporting a nice pair of socks, apparently ruining a good pair of socks, I should say. The U.S.-Canada frontier has been shut to non-essential travel, including tourism, since March of 2020. Those who travel to Canada have been required to undergo a 14-day quarantine upon arrival. Last month, Trudeau lifted the quarantine requirement for fully vaccinated Canadian citizens and permanent residents. And there are a lot of people who are excited about this. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo said an open border with our neighbors to the north means families will be reunited once again, and much needed relief for our border communities that depend on cross-border trade and supply chains. Let's just open the damn thing up right now so old Davey can book the SOR Vegas party. All right? There's more important things than all of this. We need to have our Vegas party for all Spaced Out Radio listeners to attend. Let's make it happen. Let's get this going. So I guess we can look forward to see what happens August 9th. Notice there's no notes on if we as Canadians can visit down there. Nothing yet. A 21-year-old woman called in a psychic medium to cleanse her haunted home after an aggressive ghost assaulted her in the shower. Leah Lewis said she endured months of ghostly activity before things took a turn for the worse as she discovered unexplainable scratches on her thigh. She believes the marks were left by an angry spirit. Leah, who lives with her mum Colette in Newhall, Burton in the UK, recalled, "I didn't feel anything at all until I saw the scratches when I was drying myself. I told me mum, and she said, I think we need to contact Ian Griffith's psychic medium. Incredibly, it's believed the ghost followed Leah home from her work at a shop in Burton that he had been haunting. There was speculation from store staff that the ghost was a man who may have been murdered in the area years before it became a shop, as he was described as aggressive and angry. The trouble started a few weeks ago after Leah's grandfather died. Colette said Leah started saying that she could see and hear things which none of us could. I remember this one evening during driving to my mom's. She asked me if I saw the little girl who stood on the side of the road, and I was blown away as I couldn't see anything. Fast forward a few months after, her ability only got stronger. She'd come home from work and tell me about the activities she experienced while being there. Little did we know she would end up having the man upstairs, as she referred to him, following her home and becoming our worst nightmare. Wow, that's scary. All right, I think we got time for one more. On June 25th, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence published the long-awaited UFO report to Congress. The unclassified report is 9 pages long, including the title page and 2 appendix pages. This week, ODNI told John Greenwald, the creator of the website Black Vault, classified version is actually 17 pages long. In days leading up to June 25th release, the Mystery Wire was told by a reliable source that the classified UFO report to Congress was 78 pages long. Greenwald is well known for his work in getting the government to turn over material by using Freedom of Information Act. However, Greenwald wrote the statement that he received from the ODNI was done through communication regarding an open case filed by the Black Vault. This case, filed the morning after the ODNI delivered the classified report to Congress, initiated a mandatory declassification review, or MDR, of the classified document. Very interesting. That's going to be a debatable one for quite a while here. I really do believe that. There's more to that than what we know. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. What's your thoughts on Megalodon, or a form of it, still existing? Avi Rupp. Discovery did an entire documentary on that with proof and a video. Canadian Joe, certainly a possibility. The deepest parts of the oceans are still a mystery. Anything is possible. Evil Carl. Just like the forested mountains have Bigfoot and Dogman, what makes you think that the ocean doesn't have a humanoid Megalodon? But I do believe that Megalodon is still alive. Bart of the Dave. Megalodon. Really? Really, Bart? You must still be upset that the Habs lost in the Stanley Cup final. Nick, very much so. I believe it exists. The one story that proves it to me is, I believe, off the coast of Australia, a shark that had an electronic tag on it was taken down by something bigger to the deep depths of the ocean. UFO, bro. Possibly one giant-ass shark out there for sure. Megalodon is also one of my favorite songs from the band Mastodon. Thank you to everybody participating in tonight's show as we start to rock out with Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight on YouTube, LGAP, Twitch, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night. Oob to you, Joe's Maine. You got aliens. Super Gary's going to bed. That's right, Jordan Ashley Pettit. Bumblefoot, take us home. Yes, motherfucker, she's saying. Take us home, Mr. B. Yes. It's the way she likes it. Rock and roll all night long. God, my hair looks good tonight. It really does. All right, what do I got to do? That was a fun show, man. I'm not going to lie. That scared the shit out of me, that show. It really did. It really did. Okay, while the show's loading, I'm going to take a pee break. See? Max, if you're watching this part, I said pee break too. Raul, it is lovely. It is lovely. Let's go. Hold on. I'll be right back. All right. Downloading that. That can close. That can close. That can close. That can close. All right. That was good times tonight. John was on fire too. Thank you, Apollo 11, for that awesome super chat, by the way. Really do appreciate that. Oh, no, that's not what we want. Copy and paste. Show you guys what I'm doing here. There we are. And let's get the show started here. I think I butchered this right at the beginning. Hold on, I better turn that up. How you doing, buddy? Nice to see you. I hope you had a good weekend. Here we go. That wasn't that part that I butchered. Sure I got. And we'll go there. It was the next half hour. What's with all the fisting talk, by the way? You guys are a bunch of perverts. Raul, don't make me break into song, because I will break into song. Feelings, nothing more than feelings. You're a weirdo. I swear to God, my audience watches way too much Pornhub. Is that what you guys do after the show ends and I sign off? You guys immediately all go to Pornhub? You sick bastard, Fabster. You are sick. You know that? All right, this is where I butchered it. I believe it's right around here. As well, seconds. And restart the show.
You're listening to Space.
Right there. Well, Jennifer Hawkins, I'm learning new things every day. You're a weirdo, too. Oh, you guys are too much fun. Excuse me. Dave is totally innocent. Raul, I'll fight you. I'll fight you. I'll come on over and fight you. What the hell? You need to go, I'll go with you. Worm spleen again. What's happening? Thanks for coming on in. Oh, yeah. Raul, I'd totally go with you. Totally. Now, hold on. Are we going on the ice or are we going on the road? Because I don't do the road. I'll go on the ice with you, but I'm not doing the road. I don't do street fighting. Ontario boy, you should be able to skate without training wheels. Chris Mack, it is 12:11 my time, Pacific time. Oh, yeah, we'll have some fun, Raul. We'll go. I have no problem with that. Like I said, it's got to be on the ice, though. Okay? No wrestling. We got to punch. I have no idea what Pornhub is, Stone. You tell me. Naughty, naughty girl. Oh, goodness. I cut off the... That's not good. Cut off half the show. Oh, that ain't good. My name is Dave Scott. Oh, where are we here? I gotta go there. That's fine. You brush up on your skating. We'll have a go. Olin, what's happening, man? No, Chris Mack, I am on the West Coast. All good things happen on the West Coast. Give me 2 seconds here. No, we're not getting any rain. No rain scheduled for a while. Let's take a look at the forecast here. It's 66 degrees Fahrenheit, 19 degrees Celsius right now. Oh, they're saying that we might get a few droplets of rain tomorrow. 40% chance of precipitation. That'll be good. A high of 23 degrees, which is a high of, should be about 73 for the next couple of days. Temperatures are down. I wonder what the long range is. Let's go to Weather Network. Hold on. All right, so let's show you this. It's the Weather Network here. Let's see here. Look at that, around 300 wildfires. All right. So what do we got here? Next 7 days. Mainly sunny, maybe a little bit of rain there, maybe a little bit of rain tomorrow, a chance of a shower. Around 1 millimeter. No, that's always fun. What do we got tonight? I'll be able to see anything. 2-week forecast. Let's see where we're heading. So next week we'll get back into the higher temperature stuff. This is actually a good week in order to try and calm down some of those forest fires. Mr. Cowley, welcome back to the show. Oh, Mr. Cowley loves his spaced out radio. Thank you, Stone. Hey, there's gorgeous Larry. You know what? No, Larry. So this is what we're going to do. Is when the new store opens up, we're going to order you guys new shirts and I'm going to ship them out to you. That's what we're going to do. Good night, Travis DeLuca and Jordan Ashley Pettit. I'm quite pissed off about that, Larry. It makes me look like a fool, and I don't like looking like a fool. Hi, Amuamua. How are you? Oh, excuse me. Oh. Give me 2 seconds here. Let's go here. And there we go. Stone Hobbit, where are you? If it's 7:22 p.m. Tuesday. I always thought you were in America. No, that's not true, Joe. Because it didn't involve sharks. I'm not growing the beard this time. I got to trim it. Angela Hudson, welcome to the show. Look at that. Sexy, silky, silver fox hair. Lovely. Yes. You got it right, Angela Hudson. Oh. How do you know sharks aren't being abducted? We don't. No, I'm not going to let my beard grow this time. Falcon Lake was totally fascinating. This fan sucks. It doesn't even give you the sound. Blah, 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 blah. I know, Raul. I love you too, man. Look at this, Paul Holland. Worst thing about sharks when you get up close to them are their dead eyes, like looking into nothingness, piano black. See, that sucks to me. That really, really sucks. And this one is 2972. That's why that side is always fucked it up. Sounds like a vibrator. Trying to figure out how to make this thing make less noise. There's not a shark in this world that could fit Fap's head in its mouth. I was watching that Oumuamua. Thank you, Bigfoot Rob. Much love to you, buddy. Steam Train Mark, thank you for letting me know I'm alive later on today. Appreciate that. It's always nice to know when you made it. Every time Mark says that, I just kind of want to go, yeah. It's true. All right, those ones are done. This one to do yet. Once we get the new chat room going on our website, we will be, you guys can chat literally all night long. I don't care. You will have to be members, though, of the website to get into this special area. No, we're not going to do a Discord chat. I hate Discord. I hate Discord with a passion. Totally gorgeous, Larry. Corns no longer is a part of Spaced Out Radio. Thank you, Desert Clam. Shut that down. Share this. All right, everyone. Tomorrow night on the show. First off, Raul, he had a bunch of family stuff that was taking up a lot more time, and we had to I needed somebody who needed to be there a little bit more, and Corey's a good dude and loved dearly, fantastic mustache, but family comes first, and he had a lot going on. So tomorrow night on the show, let's see who's on. Who is on? John Sumple will be here. He's a movie director. He's got a new documentary out called Extraordinary: The Revelations. He'll be our guest tomorrow night. You're going to have some fun. We're getting into the woo tomorrow night. So that's what we're doing. Thank you to Cedric, Apollo, Robbie, Betty, Tim, Cat Chaser, and Michael for the amazing super chats tonight. Let's turn up the woo tomorrow night, everyone. Let's have some fun, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everyone.